Tonight, we're going to, we want to make sure that we give Jeff enough time to get his his presentation on moderate income housing and the program that he's got in mind. But let's start with going through the budget. And we got Curtis here to help us through. And then if there's any questions as we're going, let's bring them up. And, as much of this, I'd like to get as much of this, we got a fairly hefty agenda, but if we can get through the budget so we can get our questions answered with that would be great. Curtis, I think, let's see, Bill, is it okay? Let's just turn the time over to Curtis and let
Sounds
him
great to
sort
me.
of
Absolutely.
get started, and we'll do that. Curtis?
Awesome. So about a month ago, we went through the tentative budget and presented that. We had an additional meeting, last council meeting, where we discussed that tentative budget in more depth and there was a number of questions, and hopefully you had a chance to read the minutes and go back through and refresh a little bit off of that meeting. Purpose of my discussion leading this off, and Lindsay, would you bring up that changes from the tentative to the final? I'm going to focus a lot on what we changed between the tentative budget and the final budget. And Lindsay can make that one size larger for me. She's awesome that way. I think that'll. I'm going to focus on the expenses in the general fund first. We had several inputs, items requested from the tentative budget meeting. So as we walk through, there was a request made for a piece of software that would track information for economic growth. And we went through it and got some basic pricing on that, and
Curtis, repeat that. What was it?
Placer AI.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it basically helps track information
Economic development, yeah.
for economic development. So the cost there was about $15,000. That will be an ongoing as long as you want to keep that software in place. Anymore, almost all software is a software as a service, and you just sign an ongoing agreement until you cancel it. So that is in the budget. Next three items. Next three items are all in the police department. When we had the tentative budget meeting, police chief expanded upon this STEP program that would allow the officers to be classified into steps and trying to mimic what some other agencies are doing, trying to make this more competitive in that environment. In that proposal, there was a few items that needed to be refined. And as Lindsay did a fantastic job fleshing that out, there were some additional costs, and so that we've been able to capture all of the costs of that program into the budget now. And that should be able to be fully implemented with this final budget. The next two items relate to the discussion that was had about hiring an assistant public works director in anticipation of Paul's publicly announced retirement. I don't know if announced seems so soft. Proclaimed, declared,
Reminded.
constantly.
Announcement.
So we needed to fund that for an entire year. This one is a little bit of a unique position because it does get split across multiple funds, because that position benefits the water fund, the sewer treatment plant, sewer funds, and so that position's salary gets spread across those, and you'll see that throughout the other funds.
Curtis?
Yeah.
When And if that person takes over in Paul's position, then Paul's position will then become available. Would we then lose the position, or are we going to always keep an assistant public works director?
So the anticipation in this budget was to have them working together so that much of Paul's vast experience could be
Right.
transitioned over. And then I think that's going to be a decision that the council and the mayor and city administrator, city manager probably need to have as to if that's valid, at what level is needed. And to a certain extent, what the new public works director feels is warranted. Just from the outside looking in, I wouldn't be surprised if it continued. But I'm not sure I'm not in a position to say that, whether that position will continue or not. And then, we did put in, put more frequent mowing, but it's actually the edging and mowing, right around, for the cemetery right around the Memorial Day. So we've put in that additional money as requested by the council.
Can I clarify one thing on that? We're gonna try now to go back to every other week because the grass is not growing this much every week, so that'll do a little bit of this, you know. We know it's gonna get done every other week, but, so,
I mean, that's a, we're looking for money, that's a easy one to just go away, as long as, I mean, the Memorial Day is the biggest thing.
And I bet we could get service projects and people to come do that for us.
bet you can't.
It's,
I did 10 of them, and it took me 2 hours, I don't think I want to do it.
I think that the way you guys had it looking, you know, it looks really good now, and grass does, you know, it slows down in the warmer, during the warmer months and everything, but to keep it trimmed up, I think really makes a difference.
This provides funding if the council wants to.
Okay.
The final one has a little bit of nuance to it. There's requests for an additional person for community events. And Lindsay may be better to explain this because she worked directly with Zach.
So there was 2 of our full-time recreation coordinators were budgeted, 0.25% of their time was already budgeted out of 1073. And speaking with Zach, one of them specifically will never, shouldn't say never, most likely won't have any time out of 1073. So we increased the salaries and benefits line in the recreation fund and put her whole FTE in the recreation fund, rather than 75% and 25% in community events, freeing up 0.25% in, or 25% in that fund for someone else.
Question. So does this meet the expectations of Zach and his proposal? It does, thank you.
Yeah, the end result is it moves some benefits over into Fund 25, the recreation fund, and takes them from the general fund, because the position they'll be funded in here would be part-time, not full-time. As a result, that resulted $176,000 more of expenses. We wanted to come up with a source, so we went back through a lot of our estimates on the revenue side of things. We got the certified tax rate in. That's going to come in right around almost 3.15 million.
That includes the growth factor.
That has the growth factor in it. We were
Only
looking.
10,000 more?
No, in the tentative budget, we had estimated.
Oh, you already
$80,000,
estimate, oh, okay,
and
I
it
got
ended
you.
up being
Yeah, I
$90,000,
got you.
so.
It just came in a little bit higher than our estimate. So
So how big of an increase is that over the last year? Do we,
At 100,000?
Last
that
year's
was presented in the last budget.
Seems like it was 90,000 and then this 10,000 more.
it's just curious. So the 100,000 really is what the growth is in the
Yeah.
real estate tax, county real estate taxes to the city.
2.8.
New growth part.
Or 3.0.
It's not necessary to go back and look it up.
Yeah, property tax.
Question on this with the property taxes. So I looked at, I think it's page 51 of the packet, but it shows the current year actuals is 3.144 million for property taxes. Now, is that a full fiscal year, or do we still have more coming in?
No, that would be the vast majority of everything. There can be a little bit of a trickle, but mostly it relates to prior year taxes at this point, so.
Very,
That should be, we usually receive everything by February, true up is in March. So that'll be 100%.
so FY '25, then I'm only seeing virtually a $1,000 increase.
You know,
And yet Visionary Homes is building like crazy up there by the hospital.
I would love to go through and explain the entire property tax system and all the complexity to it, having audited them for several years in a variety of fashions. There are multiple components that they take into account when they're going through and doing your property tax. Some of that is centrally assessed property. That varies greatly. And so when they're putting together the certified tax rate, they are supposed to look at what was actually collected and make those determinations. But because there's so many factors that go into it, we can talk about circuit breaker, we can talk about what goes for the elderly as well. All these factors come into play to create a base rate. And then if you happen to get some extra that goes upon it, because sometimes when people adjust their tax rates, they get a little bit of extra in a year. It's real weird nuance based off of how it's calculated. Yeah, it can look like we're only getting $1,000. That's what the county told us that our certified tax rate would generate, and so that's what we'll put in the budget.
Okay. So it's not making any estimate on the new homes that are being built to go along with it?
It will factor in the property values as of January 1st of 2024. Anything that's happening after January 1st
Won't be
all goes
counted.
into the next year.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yeah, it's all the property values are as of January 1st. So they can give us the certified tax rate by the end of May, well, by the 1st of June.
I guess I was just anxious because I see all the housing going up and it's
Yeah.
hoping we'd get it
That,
sooner.
Curtis, still them houses or apartments are rented and all that. During construction, we get none of that until they get the final approval or, the move-in.
They'll actually do a valuation of what the status is of the property as of January 1. So if you have, I'm just gonna use a simple example. If you have a home that eventually is valued at $600,000 and the construction that's done on it as of January 1 is $200,000, they'll assess that value at $200,000.
We'll get a third of.
And then once they come around to the next year and then it's in and occupied and they establish the final value, then they'll establish the value at $600,000.
Additionally,
As an example.
once a parcel is subdivided, that changes the value of the property from the base farm value or whatever it was. And so we're seeing small increments towards the full value of the property. And that's reflected in our these numbers here, the ad valorem valuation.
Okay.
We looked at, we call it auto and lieu. Slide up just a little bit, Lindsay, please. Up to the top, please.
Oh, sorry.
My bad. My up is not yours. We looked at how much has been collected. These are basically registration fees on vehicles. They call it a fee in lieu tax or an auto in lieu. We looked at how much had been collected This year, we looked at how much had been collected in the past. We analyzed what was coming through the account. There was a little bit of adjustment. We think we'll come in close to 210 next year. That's our best estimate, rather than 170. We picked up that extra $40,000. We did the same analysis on the electric and natural gas. Where did we stand currently? What do the patterns look like they're going to? And made additional projections based off of those patterns that we're seeing. Small thing for business licenses, looking at what we can anticipate. Building permits, this is one, our past history for the last number of years has been over $200,000. We have consistently kept that lower. I'm taking advantage and putting that up a little bit higher to help fund some of these priorities. I wouldn't be surprised if we broke 200 again, but it's surprising how resilient the market is, given the prices. But it's hard to fight against history too. Just the building permit that we're seeing.
So question, your additional revenues here basically balance the additional costs that you show on this sheet. 176,200, but you had stated this last week at a meeting that we are 333,000 in the general fund over
That was before coming up with these adjustments.
before, and so where are we now?
I knew you were gonna ask that. Do we have the current budget? I was gonna have you print that out. If you go to, it's gonna be about page of this, I think. It's right at the end of the revenues.
Oh, yeah, it's,
Oh, we're into expenses.
oh, sorry,
Back up. Yep, right there.
130?
Yeah, we're going into fund balance $130,000. So we call this line fund balance to be appropriated. So the goal of this, we can use fund balance. What we don't want to do is use fund balance for ongoing operating expenses. That's like tapping into your savings to pay for your utility bills. It only lasts for so long. So what I did is I went through all of the budget in the general fund, and I isolated out all the items that were one-time expenses. They totaled up $130,000, and I said, that's my target. So then I found revenues that would get us to that point. So the only thing that we're going to be using fund balance for are one-time items that were clearly identified in the budget.
And so the overage basically is 130,000 at this point instead of the 300 plus?
Exactly.
Excellent, thank you.
Again, those are one-time type expenses and
Right.
not ongoing.
There are
Salaries
things that
and-
I'd feel comfortable in my own personal budget saying, yeah, I'm going to budget for this one-time item because I've got my savings for it.
Go buy the new bike, yeah.
Exactly. So their interest earnings, we obviously adjusted, and you can see I made an adjustment to fund balance to be appropriate to bring it down to that 130,000. So that we do have a balanced budget, we have a means to pay for it in the general fund, and we'll be financially solid for the next fiscal year if we pull this plan off.
Question. So we're budgeting 3 million for sales tax, it appears.
3.145, yeah.
Well, that's property.
No, that's property
All for
taxes.
sales tax? All for
million.
sales
Sales
tax?
tax would be about
Yeah.
3, wouldn't it?
Yes.
3 million even, yeah.
We're allocating 75% or 80?
80%.
So 600,000 is going to our bottom line, and then 2.4 is going to capital projects, right? Well,
600
80% is going to capital projects and 20% is going to our,
to fund operations.
correct?
It funds operational expenses, yes. Exactly. The other ones are doing various transfers into capital projects funds and/or paying for the Utopia bond is also coming out of that.
Of the 80%, the Utopia bond is coming out of that.
Comes out of that.
I hope we hurry up and get that paid off.
My lifetime?
2040, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
42,
2042.
either 22 or 20, or 4, it's either 42 or 44. So, depends on how long you want to live.
That's about the same time my car's.
It's only 20 years away.
Yeah.
All right.
If we drop down to recreation, this is where you're going to see the person sliding over that we mentioned came out of the general fund and went over to the recreation fund. So you can see the increase in expenses there, including the increase for benefits. Right now, I have this coming out of cost to be appropriated. Not hugely comfortable with that. We can do it for a short period of time. So one of the things that we'll communicate to Zach is evaluate fees and make sure the fee structure is adequate to cover our costs. That's why there's a note there. We'll determine if there's a fee increase that should be implemented for our recreation programs. In the fire and EMS fund, we added the hours for the emergency management. I had a mental blunder where I equated 1/4 of it, I equated what the chief asked for in time to a pay period instead of to a month. And so I was overestimating, and Lindsay helped me catch that. And so it's the total cost for the year is they're about $6,700, including the benefits that would go along with it. So that would provide the time for the emergency management hours be added to an existing employee.
So the benefits are like having to go to class and things like that? Is that the benefit?
Taxes and
Taxes and,
workers'
and
comp
taxes.
and those things we have to pay. So
or
this
it
would
won't
be,
be a full-time employee?
yeah, this would be a part-time position, so it's not health insurance and those, but it's, yeah, your FICA taxes, your workers' comp, the things we have to put on our employees, so.
But he's already on the books for the fire department, so does that change?
We're adding hours.
Yeah, he'd be working
Just
more
adding
hours,
hours.
so more
Adding
in
hours, so
taxes.
there's some additional taxes that we have to pay.
The Bragg event that they held not quite 2 weeks ago, I participated in 2 of the breakout sessions, and one was on emergency management, Brady. They were elated to hear, the county was elated to hear that we were moving this direction, so.
We evaluated and there was enough interest earnings we think will be coming in off that fund to pay for that. So that's where that increase is going to be funded out of. The water fund, you can see that's absorbing the assistant public works director. Right now, taking it from the excess from reserves, just for the sake of not playing around with our water revenue estimates, but we'll monitor that situation and determine best place of where that's coming up. Same goes for treatment plant. It's the exact same explanation, and the same goes for sewer. So all of those are the exact same. We're just taking it.
This person may not be hired in the, for the full fiscal year, so that may,
That's why we're just holding off on. I'm not proposing any fee increases right now or anything like that. We'll just see when the person's hired on and what the playout is. So I have every confidence that we'll be fine right now. The RDA, this will lead into some of what Jeff is going to discuss. The initial budget here had $1 million in the capital outlay to start to implement some of the concepts of state requirements for low, moderate income housing. Jeff brought us some great points, and we had a really good discussion last Friday I thought there's some really valid comments made all the way around. And one of the key points that came out from it was we have started down the path of a state mandated concept of what do we do for low income housing. But what we haven't done is really set, I call them parameters, and set any guidelines, set any programmatic features to help give guidance to what we're doing here. And one of the points I made was we have a Parks and Rec program that has parameters of who can participate, signups, registrations, everything. There's certain waivers that can happen. That all has program features to it, parameters to it. We have a senior citizens program that has program features. It's got who can participate, how much can they have for the Meals on Wheels, how often they get them. All of these are program parameters. When we talk about the low income housing area or the moderate income housing area, or any sort of housing area, we can't really see those parameters. And so from a city staff point of view, it becomes really hard to say, well, okay, who do we award to? How do we even run this program? What are the parameters? And a lot of that needs to be defined and set. And so what we did is we said, let's pull back for a minute. Let's not say that we're going to do capital. We did have a proposal in place to modify some houses that seemed to fit within some existing guidelines that we had. And that was going to be about $100,000 that it's Habitat for Humanity presented last meeting. And so we said, we'll put that in there into this RDA fund. And then we're going to put some seed money of $800,000 that if we can get some parameters in place, we would have some seed money. Now, the concept behind this is that fund, right, that RDA right now is sitting on just over $2.2 million.
This is the West Liberty one?
This is West Liberty, and what happened there, just to remind everyone, when we created the West Liberty RDA area, that project area, that at the time, state law required 20% of the property tax increment collected by the RDA be set aside for low to moderate income housing. And they gave us basically three choices at the time, which was, first one that they pushed hard was to just pass the money through to the Olin Walker Housing Fund. And they wanted the city just to send the money right down there. The second was you could work with your local your local agency of government, some other organization to work with their housing programs, or the city could do their own. Well, we went with option 2 for the initial, and we were sending money over to Bragg. But then Bragg got to the point where they're like yeah, we're kind of out of options here, so don't send us any more money. So the city kept this in reserve, and we've been holding it here so that the city could implement some sort of low to income housing program or have some funding there to help use this program. In this budget, and Lindsay, right there, oh, you're right where I wanted to be. You'll see what we've done is we anticipate having interest earnings. We checked it out based off of a $2.2 million. We think we'll get somewhere right around $110,000, and that will fund those neighborhood improvements. What that leaves is the core base of the 2.2 million, and what we're saying is we would tap into that core base of seed money of $800,000 as a chance to start something and see if it works. Just see if there's any movement on the needle. A lot of frustration was expressed in that meeting about there's all sorts of stuff being thrown at housing programs, and it's not really moving the needle. It's not seeing desired outcomes. So we thought if we could start and strive to develop one, and I know Jeff will explain this a lot better and a lot more fully, but if we could start one, this $800,000 would be a significant amount of seed money to jumpstart that program. And that would leave us about 2 more years of doing that with interest earnings and such on it, that we could see how this program turned out. So it's got like a 3-year life potentially to it, from a funding side of things. But, so that's our proposal with the budget.
Should I discuss that now, or do you want to hold off?
Yeah, I think he's set it up for you pretty good. Why don't we go ahead and just, do you have any questions before you start? Do we have any questions about
So
any
West
of the
Liberty
budget item?
RDA, it's done, right?
Yes, it was completed and that project area was shut down. There's no more revenues coming in from it. And that's when we saw that big jump in the property taxes, when you see that graph. That was one of the big jumps.
So the 130,000 is, you think's doable going into the other fund, or do we need to cut more to get to lower than that?
The 110 here, or the 130.
130 on the whole budget thing.
In the general fund, the 130 is great. Yeah, we've got enough money in there. That's what it's holding some reserves for. We're in great shape.
Any other questions about the budget?
Oh, but thank you, Curtis. Sure make it easy.
Yeah, and the presentation was good. We understood what,
I'm not going to jail again, so. Thank you.
I haven't voted yet.
I don't look good in orange. That's why I wore orange.
all right. All right, Jeff, why don't you kick it off then?
Thank you. So as you recall from the last council meeting, Habitat for Humanity, Randy Christensen sitting in the back from Habitat, and Drew, both from Habitat, they proposed to us, and I think sent out proposals to everybody, $100,000 they were requesting to be an add-on to their program for house renovations for moderate income homes. They have grant funding now that can fund up to $18,000 per request, but some of the requests coming in, they need more than that. So if the city money is utilized, it would supplement that. If somebody comes in for the 18,000 or less, Habitat would cover it. If it goes over, then they would tap into the city funds to help be able to deal with that. The 300,000 that they asked for to purchase lots so they can build homes, which is always moderate income homes with them. Of course, I'm a fan. It's a good program, but the points were excellent that Curtis brought up, and we had a good discussion. Bill was there, the mayor's there, Lindsay's there, as we went through it. And a program needs to be developed so that we can have potentially competition. So multiple entities could compete to get the funding, and then we support the biggest bang for the buck. So where can we get the most moderate income housing constructed, depending on the applications that come in to compete with that funding? And so the desire is that the city would draft a program by this December, and I'll be making a motion on this when we're in the regular meeting, that they would draft a program that we would review and hopefully approve by December, January. They'd develop it by December. We probably wouldn't get to it till January. And then immediately open up the opportunity for organizations to apply for the funds, the 800,000 that is in the budget. And then we'll see how it goes. We may or may not use 800,000. I mean, it could go well beyond 3 years if we get requests for less. But another hope to go along with that, it would last at least 3 years, is that the state would recognize it and go, wow, none of the strategies in the state statutes dealing with moderate income housing have been effective. And nobody's been able to provide an effective program. At the Bragg meeting, not quite 2 weeks ago, Alyssa was there. She is the state head of the program. And when I posed a question to her in front of the audience, nope, she wasn't aware of any. Nobody's been aware of any. We have a potential of setting a model for other communities in the state with this thing if we are effective with this. And I'm trusting that we will be, because we already know of at least one organization, and hopefully more, that would actually construct the moderate income housing. If it's neighborhood nonprofit, they'd have to guarantee it goes to moderate income housing, because that's what the statute requires of us. It doesn't require affordable housing, low income housing. It requires statutory term, moderate income housing, which is 80% of the median income in the community, which is between $54,000 right now, that they could spend on housing, and then up to 30% of that on all housing costs, not just the mortgage, all housing costs. Which is a challenge. When I tried to find this, if I haven't told you already, I couldn't find any homes that would qualify for moderate income housing that are for sale in our town. And then I found a single wide mobile home. Oh, $80,000. It was an older unit, but $80,000. And I thought, bingo, there you go. Until I talked to the president of my church council, who lives in a trailer here in town, a single wide. his HOA fee, space fee, is $735 a month. So look at what's left for a mortgage and insurance and taxes and whatever else. And boy, you might not even be able to afford an aged single-wide trailer. So it's quite a challenge to try and find an effective strategy for this program, and I think we have an opportunity here.
I can see that strategy, Jeff, and it all sounds great, but I still, I guess, have not grasped that concept of how somebody's gonna build a house for that kind of money.
Gentlemen, would you care to explain the
Can't buy
program?
a single wide trailer house for that kind of money?
Habitat for Humanity follows, quite frankly, I don't even know if they realized it in the past, but their requirements fit the moderate income housing laws in our state exactly. And the way it runs, would you care to talk, Randy? Is that all right, Mayor?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So,
Now, why don't you come right over here and,
so Habitat,
Randy, why don't you just say your name, so when we
Yeah,
do
of
the,
course. Randy Christensen, Habitat for Humanity. I'm the president of the board of directors for Habitat Northern Utah. The best I can explain it would be that Habitat, because it's a nonprofit, it actually gets a lot of donations from various organizations, from companies, from you name it, we'll grab it as far as donations and also volunteer. So not only do the families that we select, they are selected because of their situation, whether it's, related to economics and also their living situation currently. And they become a partner family, and as a partner family, they actually put in sweat equity themselves. But then there's also companies and other organizations that also help fund or donate in kind or volunteer hours to help build the homes. So that's step one. And then also we, at the end, when that partner family completes, or the home is completed, partner family assessment is completed. We look at their income, what can they afford, and we modify the loan to fit within their income that they have at that time. There's two parts to it. There's a first and a second mortgage, and that second mortgage is actually an incentive to them to actually, as they pay Habitat for the mortgage each month, that portion is forgiven each year. A portion of that second mortgage is forgiven each year until it's the full first mortgage is paid. If they don't, then they owe on that second mortgage, or at least that year's worth of second mortgage.
well, maybe you just answered my question. So they're required to stay there for so long or to be forgiven the,
There is, and I don't know that number, and I apologize, but there is a certain parameter that they have to fulfill, or as far as living. They can request to sell that home. I do know that Habitat has first right of purchase back, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know the exact term, and I apologize. I wasn't prepared for that question. But we do hold that right that we can retain it, so then we can reuse it as a moderate income, continue to as a moderate income home. But we can also say, yeah, we don't want to do that. Go ahead and sell it on the open market, depending on the situation. So
And then they pay off their bill?
correct. Then they pay off the mortgage. It goes back into Habitat. Habitat then uses those funds to build another home to fund that. It's good.
So if you put a second lien on there, you're gonna get paid off when the house is sold.
If and when the house gets sold at some future date, then yes.
If they
we would.
sell it before.
Well, actually, we just forgive that. That's part of our program. So if they go to the 30-year, it's forgiven. And once that 30-year mortgage is done, then it's no longer, they no longer have to sell it back to Habitat after 30 years. It's theirs to do what they want as if it was their home, I believe. I could be wrong on that
I
piece.
think what you're
I'm
asking,
sorry.
Lyle, is can they move into this home and 2 years later sell it?
We're going to need you to come up to the mic.
yeah,
Sorry. This is Drew Anderson.
Who is he?
Drew Anderson with Habitat for Humanity. They're not allowed to sell that home and like flip it, like move in, stay for 2 years and flip it. That's not an option. So like Randy said, we would have the ability to take that home back and reuse that as a future moderate income home for another family. So that's not an option on the, we're gonna use this for 2 years and then we're gonna get out. If they choose to do that, then they are gonna have to give it back to Habitat at that point.
The amount they owe on the second. Okay.
Correct, yes.
If I understand correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the first mortgage is really based on 30% of their income.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what they are basically required to pay. And if the cost was higher, and because Wes, your question was excellent, if the cost is higher, that's the second mortgage. But the last couple of years that I've been with Habitat, we've forgiven those secondary loans each year.
Because the people have paid it every single year. It's an incentive.
But if they don't, then you got the second to get their
Correct.
money back.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's if they pay on time each month.
How long do they have to pay to get it forgiven? Is there
So
a,
every year, a percentage of that second mortgage is forgiven. It's
Oh.
it's based on 30 years. So it's a 30-year mortgage, both first and second. So the second year second mortgage is forgiven each year, a portion of that based on on-time payments. So as long as they're on-time payment, we will then, as a board, forgive. There's been one time that they were late, and because of certain circumstances, they pled their case, and we as a board decided, hey, we're still going to forgive that. But that was the only one time that I've been involved in the 4 years that I've been involved, that was a reasonable reason, and so we made that happen.
so when they close on the home, I'm sorry to ask so many questions. When they close on the home, they're assessed a payment on that second, and if they continue on, you don't reassess their income to see if they've increased or anything, just based on what it was when they got into it.
So, let me make sure I'm clear. So, at the time that they qualify to be the partner family, we have done an assessment, verified their income, all of those type of things, just like a mortgage company does. And then when they are done building the home, or the home is done being built, then we reassess their income, and that's where the mortgage is set at the rate that was
Okay,
spoken of.
and you don't reassess it every year, it's just
Correct.
set right then?
Correct.
Okay,
We hope that this is not just it's not a hand out, it's a hand up, that they can now go and make great things happen in their life and become great, part of the community and all those.
good deal for them.
It's fantastic. It's
So they'll have sweat equity involved.
Correct, right.
That'll all factor into the mortgage, the original mortgage.
Correct, yeah, and all those donations and things like that all take place, and that's why we can afford doing that, because we're an organization that's a nonprofit that does this specific thing, so.
So one question, if, say they got in there as a low income, grandma dies, leaves them $200,000, and they decide to pay that house off, then how do they pay that off early, and do you get your second mortgage if they run into some money somewhere?
That is a very specific question. I don't know that answer, and I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna, because I don't know, it's very specific, it's a challenging question that I don't know the answer to. Susie, the director, executive director, she's been through quite a few different nuanced things, and she has people at International, Habitat International, that she goes to and says, what if this scenario? Here's the scenario, how do we deal with it? And they help through it, because of course, as International, they've seen a lot more scenarios than we have as a small organization here in Northern Utah.
And it's been,
So I apologize, I can't.
it's been probably three or 4 years since we've been able to build one here in Tremont, so.
Yeah.
Be good. With the last few we've done have been in Brigham City, it'd be nice to be back up this way on this end of the county.
So you just in
We'll
Box
be
Elder
building
County?
Tremont and city
No,
limits.
we're actually cash, we have the ability to go into cash, and then we're also.
Tremont and city.
In the last 5
Actually,
years?
Our land, our space that we do is Box Elder and Weber County. There is no affiliate in Cache or Rich County. We are the nearest affiliate to that space, but right now it's just Box Elder and Weber that we currently service.
And you did 2 in Brigham City and
Correct.
Weber County. How many?
Weber County, we just barely actually acquired because there was an affiliate for Weber Davis County. And that board of directors had gone through a lot of different challenges, and the executive directors and stuff like that. So we absorbed Davis County, and the Salt Lake affiliate absorbed Davis County.
So if we,
Just this last
Did I
year.
say that wrong? We absorb Weaver County, they absorb Davis County.
if we were to go along, if we were going to sort of approve Jeff's proposal, that money would stay specifically for Tree Mountain. We wouldn't, it wouldn't
You
be
can earmark that and we would.
earmark
have
it
to
for
then-
Tree Mountain,
Correct.
City.
Tree Mountain City.
Not Garland, not Elwood, not
No.
county.
We create the program for it, so we get to approve what we approve, and we could guarantee that it's in Tremont.
Yeah, we have several different grants that we've received that are very specific to certain things, and we have to use it only for that, and our executive team is very good at making sure that happens, and our board reviews that and make sure that's what it's being used for. So, to speak what Jeff said earlier before we stood up, one of the grant funds that we have can only do certain things like roof or windows or things like that, but when we go into that home, we find out and they say, hey, can you also help us with things like ADA compliance, like adaptable or handrails or something like that in the bathrooms or different things, and we can't use those funds for that, so we have to say no. And what we're asking is, hey, can we use that those funds that you guys have available, not only to potentially build homes, but also to go back and retrofit into homes that are in need of improvement or whatever, something like that.
Situational stuff.
So the plan we're talking about has it so there's a parameter that says a house gets X amount of dollars or split it out somehow, just so it's fair type thing. I don't know how.
Yeah,
That's my-
there's two parts of this proposal. The first was $100,000, which would just go to renovations. And we've already been doing renovations in this city. This would just add to the pot, quite frankly, and help out. And the second one is for the new homes, whether it's single family or cluster or multifamily, whatever it might end up being.
Yeah, because low and moderate income housing situation is not just, hey, we need more housing, but we also need to go back and renovate housing that is becoming less and less desirable to live in or unable to be lived in. But if we can renovate those, people can then return and live in those. And even though it's maybe something that somebody that's making higher income wouldn't live in, it's something that's decent enough that someone with low or moderate income would and could live in and make a good life out in there.
So $800,000, I mean, you can't answer this question in detail, but in roundabout figures, is that going to open up enough for, what, 4 homes maybe?
I guess it depends on the parameters that you set, so we can use it, depending on how you guys set it up. We could either do homes building, or we can do,
Lots for future.
lots like the future home
Next year, we're
builds.
gonna do one, but we buy the lot now.
One of the hardest things Habitat has, is acquiring the land to construct the homes. And so their request was for $300,000 to purchase 3 lots in our town. There is,
That guarantees.
not some-
Guarantees your question on will it be staying here in Tremont?
Yeah.
We would buy those lots here in Tremont City to build those homes.
Or you guys can set up, hey, we have 800,000 and only 200,000 can be used for home building or lots or whatever, and then the rest of it being for renovation. That's up to you guys to set.
Well,
those
couldn't you
separate.
leverage, it seems to me like this money could be leveraged with some of the other sources
Absolutely
of.
right. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because of the other grant monies that we have currently and others that we always continue to seek. That would be, the way you do it is, not matching, but putting them together to make something bigger happen.
Yeah.
Like,
the critical
we can't
point
do
is,
individually.
if we create this program, then to look at how it's designed and developed, and then wait for applications to come in so we can see what the competition is and what they're applying for. Is it lots? Is it housing? Is it both? And then the city can make a determination. And the dollar amounts are unknown at this point till they apply for it. What was proposed by Curtis was, well, put $800,000 in there per year available for this type of competition, and then wait and see what we get asked for.
So the council will sort of set up the parameters of how this money could be used. Then
It's
we,
your money. So
yeah, okay.
Goals, objectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Define what we're trying to accomplish, and then we evaluate the proposals based against those objectives.
Okay.
Yeah, we would just be an organization that requests those funds once you have the parameters set, is what I understand, but.
When the partner builders go get their normal mortgage, they go to a bank to get that.
No, it actually is all run through Habitat. We are the mortgage company. And then it gets sold to, beyond that, so.
You sell it
we
to the
actually-
you sell it to the secondary market, then you bypass the banks.
Yes, yep, exactly.
Have the banks, I know that Zion's participated 1 year. Do they still participate?
Specifically with Habitat of Northern Utah, I don't believe so, but we either hold the mortgage or, we can turn it into the secondary market. And it all depends on what the options are out there during the.
So if there was a bank willing to participate with you, if they got the mortgages and they donated money into the program, you would listen to that?
Yeah, we could be open to it,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's
Any
a lot of
questions?
potential there.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what you come up with.
Yeah, that's good. I think that, yeah, it sounds like I was excited when we talked, and then this idea of maybe this could be a model that possibly could, the state may have some, grant funding or something like that we could use to even leverage this, and maybe something on an ongoing, more of an ongoing basis. There was a 3-year trial here, but, yeah.
So to briefly to speak to that, I was at the state in the spring. There are funds available. There were programs being set out. We were requesting funds there. It's a continuous thing, and we're working with all of the Habitat affiliates in Utah to do that. There's 5 affiliates throughout the state. And Salt Lake really is the one leading that charge, but we're very much involved in it with the Summit County and us. We're the close ones, and then there's some in the southern end that we're a little more challenging to get to. But so yes, we're trying to get funding everywhere, not only from governments, but also other nonprofits or corporations or anything like that. That's our goal.
Very good.
And what I've seen, it actually works, and it does exactly what
Set up to do.
it's supposed to do. It's awesome, so.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for educating us on this, and thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your. All right. Well, there's any other questions for Jeff or?
I got one, Jeff. Would there be a city somewhere that, or any Habitat house that you could show us where all the money come from to get that
I'm
going?
sure we can arrange that. I mean,
I mean, just on paper, this house in Cedar City or whatever was built by Habitat for Humanity.
we've had 2 in the last 2 years in Brigham City. We could,
Got one in Tremont.
yeah, from a few years ago.
There's actually a home right here in almost downtown Tremont area, just to the east of Maine, that we could easily take you to and show you, obviously with homeowners.
I don't want to see the house.
If you want.
Yeah.
I just want to see the paperwork.
Yeah.
How the numbers work.
Finances.
Donations.
Oh, I'm sure that Habitat would be willing to share that. Obviously, we would redact names and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but we could probably
I don't want to know who's or nothing like that. I would like to just see this.
I'm sure we would be willing to do that, absolutely.
You would be impressed by the volunteerism. Our state legislature representative, Peterson, is a contractor for Habitat for Humanity, and a lot of his crew, quite frankly, donate their time. The electrician on the last house donated his time. It's like, it really reduces the cost when you get that kind of people who help out so much. It's incredibly impressive.
Great. Back to Curtis.
Good.
Thank.
You have anything else for us, Curtis?
We do have the amendments to the current year budget that we do need to go through with
Okay.
with the city council.
All right.
If you want to do that now.
Yeah, we've got some time, so let's,
Lindsay, I think we need to go to page 204 of the packet. No, you got it.
Way ahead of you.
I know.
Way ahead.
Same basic process. We followed going from the tentative to the final. We we went through where we currently stand with departments, where there are areas that we needed to do budget amendments. The department might be running short. And then, of course, we have to come back through and see where those revenues are coming from. One of the big adjustments in here was this is the first year of that RTIF money. So it's Rural Transportation Improvement Fund, or RTIF. That has to be specifically used for roads, basically the equivalent of Class C road projects. So we had to decide what we were doing with those funds, and where we stood currently with our expenditures. So
Is our 1,000 qualify for that?
1,000, yes, yeah, or what? Yeah, they would. So what the big ones that you can see, garbage collection, increased costs there as the contract increased, and you can see we had additional revenues that came in that offset the vast majority of that. Just as a side note to remind the council, in the next fiscal year, we are taking here is called garbage, we're creating the solid waste fund. So we'll be able to see the solid waste costs and the revenues and make sure that it's a much cleaner picture outside of the general fund. It'll be much clearer, hopefully going forward. You can see, to answer your question, scroll down just a titch, Lindsay, that 1,000 North project, $48,000 is being allocated of that RTIF money for what we have projected to spend in this current year. So there's a list of expenditures there. Some of them are really small. I've touched on the higher ones. Building inspector's the other big one with the contract inspections. That's offset by the increase in building permits. All said and told, we're reducing the amount of fund balance being appropriated. It was higher at 400,000. That's going to come down to only 31,000. So we're actually putting the city in a much better financial position overall. Any questions on those?
So other than, if we paid that much for a contract, we just need to get someone hired.
For contract on what?
Bringing in an awful lot more too of revenues.
Yeah.
But
Which
For the-
contract?
the
Bench's
the
job.
Inspector.
The inspector?
Building
Oh, okay,
inspector,
all right.
yeah.
The nice part about having a contract, I'm just gonna put this out there for a minute. When you have one person come in who's your inspector, as they have benefits and they need to take leave, or if they need to go anywhere, you're down for a period of time. If they have to go to some training or something like that. Here you have a contractor team and they're here constantly. They're here when we need them. So there is an advantage when it's a one-person position that has a committed time like this. So just something to consider.
It's just a problem when they're not here when you need them.
That's managing the contract. That's not my realm.
I would agree with you otherwise.
But it's a valid point. I think it's a point of discussion that
Slide item,
It's
are
always
you
open.
looking at?
Oh, just the building inspector.
Oh, just, oh, okay.
The current building inspector that we've got contracted right now and that type of stuff, Jeff, how many people work with him, our building inspector? Just himself, isn't it?
At least one other person.
One other person?
I think he has an office help.
Because I've been hearing complaints that our contractor person's not very quick either, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we need to look into that.
Okay.
Aren't they big, don't they do a lot of it somewhere?
They do it,
Jeff?
does it
Do it all
right now,
over.
does it for like 3 different cities is what I've been told. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've been told he works for 3 other cities and
Contracts.
the contractors get notified in the middle of the night. There's a problem there we need to assess.
So the.
So it's just one. I thought it was a firm that we
Just an individual
Just an individual. Oh,
contract with
Well, I
him.
think he has a company, I mean,
Right.
I mean.
He and an assistant, yeah.
But once again, that's coming back to terms of the contract and making sure those terms are being complied with. And
so do we need to get Jeff on that?
You mean pushing the contract?
Push him into doing inspections?
Not doing the inspections. Who oversees our contract guy? Who does he report to?
Well, it used to be Sean's.
I would say it probably comes to my desk, and I'll look into that. I've heard a rumor that the building official isn't super awesome as far as getting things done in a timely manner, and that's something I need to look into.
Yeah.
Will you follow up on that?
No, Northrop went to a different, but it's a whole, like, company, so if that guy's not there, somebody else can come. And they
Oh.
use them for
That would be good.
our county, and they use them in Salt Lake County, the same company, so.
If it were a firm and there were several people, then, you know, somebody could be servicing
Right.
our request. But I've got 3 different major contractors in our areas that have talked to me. I'll come talk to you about it.
Yeah, I've never met a contractor that said that the building official was doing things
Me neither.
in an appropriate time, because
You weren't here when Steve Bench was here.
it needs to be done immediately, and I'm done with the thing, where's the inspector?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what
We're
you're
pouring
saying.
in 5 minutes.
But if
It's the
it's,
same thing with the banker. The money should have been there yesterday. But reality is that when they're making them make 2 applications for the same thing, we need to look
it
into
becomes
that.
problematic, and if it's longer than about, well, a reasonable time, I won't even say a specific time, but if it's longer than a reasonable time, we need to figure that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Curtis.
though that's the vast majority of the adjustments. The other ones are relatively minor. We had some additional costs in the civic center remodel, so we had to go amending the budget for that one in the capital projects fund. And then in the police department, the equipment came in $10,000 over what we had budgeted. And so we've made an adjustment there. That was some dang good budgeting that happened. So to have that little, it's really a kudos to, and I'll say the budgeting, but it's kudos to all the staff for really looking at their budgets, monitoring it, and understand the importance of living within what's been allotted. And they've done a great job, and so kudos to them. Our one final thing, if you flip up to the, there's a resolution for the amendment just above this one. So every year we have to try and project out what the revenues are going to be at year end, and we can only carry over 35% of that number. Well, we won't finalize that number until somewhere right around the first part of end of September, endish of September, first part of October. So I'm trying to project out from right now about 4 months what that final revenue number is going to be. I have an idea. I have a ballpark. But what we've done in the past is said, we're not exactly sure what that number is going to be, but what we'd like the city council to do is give us some parameters, give us some guidance. And what we're asking is that we carry over 25%, not even the full 35%, but we carry over 25% of what that revenue number is. And any difference above the 25% up to what the actual calculation is, we're proposing that the city council authorizes to transfer that amount, 10% into Fund 40 to fund future capital projects, 50% to go into our vehicle equipment because we've pulled that down substantially for vehicles in this past budget timeframe, and then 40% to go for future road projects in our transportation capacity. So we've done this for a number of years now, this type of, but I just want to be on record saying this is what we know we're going to have an excess. It's probably going to be somewhere north of $1 million. This is what we'd like to have that excess transferred into. so that we can comply with law. We'll be well within compliance. We could keep up to 35% if the council wanted that. Anywhere, any number below the 35, we can, you guys can set, but what we're proposing is anything in excess of 25% of those revenues goes this way.
Okay, define the revenues. Is it just a sales tax?
No, it includes all of the grants, it includes all of our other miscellaneous charges, all of the building permits, grants, even revenues from the garbage that are now in the general fund. Part of getting that out will help with some of this calculation.
Not the property tax though, right?
Property tax as well goes.
As well?
All revenues, right?
All of the revenues.
At the end of the year, the bottom line,
Yeah, so right now, Lindsay ran a report for me on June 13th, and right now the revenues were just shy of $11 million. So that'll adjust a little bit. So we can keep up to 35% of whatever that end revenue numbers comes out at. So if you were just to take this one, if I take 11 million and I times that by 0.35.
4 million.
So it's 3.85 million is the max that we could keep in fund balance. So we would look at whatever the fund balance was in excess of that 3.85, and we would have to transfer that out to be in compliance with state law. What we're saying is take it down to 25% so we have a nice cushion there.
My mind's working too fast and the pieces aren't coming together, so help me. Do you see this as one-time money, or do you see any of this as recurring money?
No, this is all one-time money. And that's why it's going to, that's why it's going to.
Yeah, each year we'll do this again next year.
If we have some excess again next year, then it goes in there. This is where a department didn't spend all of their budget, so
There you go.
there's a different, so there's amounts there. And we're just taking that and setting aside for future projects, so that's why we're proposing some of it going to equipment, because the police department may come in under, but, well, they will come under, nobody will spend their budget entirely. They'll underspend their budget, but a share goes into fund future equipment purchases because they need them. You know, by putting it into these funds, everybody gets to kind of share in the savings.
So this is kind of done at the end of the budget year.
Absolutely.
So after all the living has happened for a year on this budget and there's any excess left, then this is how they're going to handle it if they don't use all their budgets up.
Thank you. My quandary is this a recurring thing that happens every year?
There's money every year that doesn't get
Potentially.
used.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's an open door to discretionary spending on a recurring basis. In other words, could we be budgeting some of this for a recurring expenditure?
It would be really hard because the budget authorized the department head to spend all the way up to whatever their budget is.
So there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
But if this was happening every year at a substantial amount of money, as you just explained to us, then I'd start to look at it as, ooh, that opens up some doors.
And
I hear the caution.
And
I hear
that's
the caution.
where evaluating, budget variances at the end of the year can come into play when we get the final budget actuals. If there's concerns that a department is putting their budget up too high, you can come to that. I've not seen that personally, but it's, we adopt these budgets based off of the best estimates that people have. Sometimes some of it comes out of the street department because they've got a project that just goes into the next year. And we fund that as much as we can out of the next year, but we put it aside in these capital projects, so if they need to tap into it, then we can tap into it at that point in
So
time.
the need is there, yeah.
So it's
so
a matter
you're
of,
saying that you'll come to us each year with something like this.
yeah. And we vary the percentages. We try to look at where the needs are. Bill and I had a great discussion about this and went through and, there's a number of needs with road projects and,
Oh.
should it deserve more than 40%? We're recommending 40%. Could it use more? Yeah.
I'll make a request of you. Could you do a 5-year review and find out what this dollar amount's been each of those years?
Oh, yeah, we've got that.
If you would. And then we can see if this is a normal trend, if it's an increasing trend, if it's a decreasing trend, whatever, if there's any trends involved.
Part of the concern with this is, and this is a perennial concern where you allow employees to bank holiday or vacation pay rather. We don't know when they're going to quit and we need to pay them out, or when they're going to retire and we need to pay them out. So a lot of this has to, a lot of this gets reflected in those kinds of numbers where there are expenses that are budgeted for but not necessarily used. But then they need to carry over for the next year in case that person wants to quit or retire the next year, just as an example. Or if there's an equipment replacement thing that is anticipated, but because of pricing or other things, we don't do it this year in anticipation of prices coming down next year. So there are a number of good reasons to carry this forward. And the question is, where do we park it so that we don't have to worry, we're not bumping up against that 35%, and we're staying within the realm of 25 to 35% in our carryover from year to year. And
I'll give you a scenario. What's running through my head at the moment, and I need to think it through more, is, gee, if we're carrying over, in excess of $1 million every year, and that's been a trend, gee, couldn't we obligate 100,000 of that for recurring expenditures? With the anticipation of we'll continue to get the $100,000, and it leaves quite a buffer for emergency needs or other things. That's just a scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put out a scenario just using the police department since I brought them up. As of the date of this report, and this would be before, I don't think we had any amendments on the police department. Their budget was just over 3 million. They've spent 2.6. They'll go through a number of salaries in that time frame, but the budget variance there was 400,000, a little over 400,000. Do I anticipate they'll spend all 400,000 before the end of the year? Probably not. Will they have a budget variance of 100 to 200,000? Very possible. Without micromanaging the lines or going through and scrutinizing every single line to determine where exactly that variance came from, there's going to be a number of factors. They may have had an officer leave, and so they only, they had an unfunded position for 3 or 4 months. That's going to cause a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 variance. It's those types of things that I'm very, very cautious of. And so an overall trend, that's fine. I can tell you that we've transferred out a lot. I can also tell you that these department heads bring their budgets in reasonably close to budget with a few exceptions, especially on a percentage basis.
I was just going to add to that, that equates to, they've wanted to hire, people to come in. If they would have been operating the way they had budgeted and had more people here, we would have used the money, but they haven't been able to find people, so that money adds up by the end of the year, and then we get to place it.
And in turn, all the supplies and other things that go along with what a person uses as their.
You're just reallocating that money to these other.
But if everybody functioned in their budget, they'd spend it all, and there wouldn't be anything at the end of the year.
Yeah, if it all came out exactly, and all we're doing is saying, let's take all those savings where there were some nuances or department decided not to spend it, and we're just setting it aside for, in essence, future items that they can fund on a one-time basis.
See, this is a unique situation from my experience in my career in government. The two general approaches to budget request were ask for more than you expect to get because you know it's going to be cut. And then hopefully you end up with even more than you needed. Or you're the frugal person and you ask just for what you need, but then you suffer the risk of having it cut. And yet here, we've been able to, quite frankly, sustain the requests that have come to us. And I'm not used to that.
it's a little different in our
I'm
world.
used to more dire situations
Yeah.
and budgets.
I did the fire department's budget years ago, and we had gas ambulances, and we put motors in 3 ambulances one year and transmission and all, and you can't figure that out and then just ate it up. 'Cause you're not planning on putting a motor in something. So that's the kind of stuff you never know what's gonna eat up something.
And that's the type of stuff we don't want. I don't monitor everything line by line. I trust the department's heads to come through, and then we do monitor it at an overall level.
I do.
And what we found is this works. And
Oh.
by empowering the department heads, 100% of the time they come in under budget, and we don't come back through and cut them. We come through and say, give us your next projection for the next year, and then they benefit from this, because then when they have a larger need, they can come through and say, can I tap into the equipment, can I tap into the capital projects? And we're able to fund that and not go into debt for it.
We have a good staff, and I trust them and think they're doing the right thing. And the only time I've seen zero-based budgeting tried was by Jimmy Carter, and it failed miserably. Miserably.
Okay. You got anything else for us, Curtis?
I've taken up quite a bit of time. I'll answer any other questions on these budget amendments. I
Questions for Curtis?
tried to give you all the information we have available.
We want to thank you and Lindsay and Mark, Bill, everybody who's been involved in trying to put this together. And
He don't get no credit. He's only been here for 2 weeks. We gotta go back to Sean and Mark that got us to this.
Earlier.
We'll give you kudos. Who put the sticker on anyway? You'll get the sticker next year if you do good on the budget. But yeah, and department heads and personnel and
everybody involved, we appreciate that, and it makes it easy for us to, at least it does for me, to be able to understand
I have a
everything.
question for Chris.
Sure.
The transportation capacity capital projects, that's roads, right?
It is, yeah. By right-of-ways, roads. As we've been successful in getting some of the money from the counties, fund that they have for transportation projects, that will go into there and fund different projects. A lot of right-of-ways that we've purchased in various locations.
yeah, them slope easements. We didn't know what we was gonna have to pay for them up on the hill, and that's just the money that you can't budget for.
Yeah,
Not knowing.
we still, we'll take some time next year and come back with the capital projects list. Lindsay and I are gonna be working through a lot of that, and the road projects,
Never end.
they're huge. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on what as a city council we wanna try and look for, but we'll come through with projections of what we're going for.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think the
And
one
thanks-
comment I'd have is, going through this budget with so few things, really kudos to the department heads for watching their budgets, for being responsible for their budgets. I don't think I can understate that enough. I have experience with other entities where they spend all their budget. They literally will take every discretionary amount of money and spend it within the first month so that their budget can't be cut later on. Our department heads are very conscientious, and it's a kudos to a really solid team that's been built up around here, and they deserve a lot of kudos for how they run their departments,
No, I
financially at least.
second that.
Even the fire chief?
Even the fire chief, I'll give it to him. I know, he's
He's the only
newbie at
one I
this.
can see here.
He's a brand new person at this, but he's come right along.
Yeah, he,
a good
I don't think, who on the city council besides maybe me and Blair has a nice Streamont Fire Department hat? Jeff, you got one?
Not a fire department.
Well, put that in
There
your
we
budget,
go.
Brady.
All right.
Budget for facts.
Well, thank you.
close to the same budget as Jackson Hole, wasn't it?
Almost.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we take a little time and just kind of go through and review the budget? I mean, review the agenda, pardon me, for this evening, and see if there's any questions. We have a fairly good size. It would be, let's see, public hearings. I have a question on public hearings. Maybe, can we do this as all one public hearing, or do we have to do them separate? I guess I'd probably ask Roger on this one. He'll probably know the answer.
Lindsay says we have.
Good answer.
Be
That's
separate.
what I thought. We have to do them separate.
Open and close
Okay.
each one.
So open and close each one. All right, good.
And in addition, there'll be one for the RDA. The-
Do we, well, we'll do that in the RDA.
In the already made,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, let's see, why don't we just kind of go through the council business, new council business?
Go back, Go back to your
sorry.
thing on the 35 acres, if everybody knows for sure.
Oh,
Annexation.
Part C, the annexation for Brody Calder.
Yeah.
Does everybody understand where that's at?
The next
Does this
section of-
reflect the boundaries we talked about yesterday?
No, this is the original piece that is east of the Freedoms and what is it?
Kind of down there by
It's on the east side of the.
where
Gotcha.
Madsen's subdivision is,
So it's
kind of
the
down there.
first part.
South side of the freeway?
So he owns two parcels, and the pieces we were talking about yesterday, is the second parcel that'll be going through the process likely. This is to do the first part that he started a while ago,
And where's this located?
just kitty corner. So where the Mennonite Road is, and that is just on the north side, there it is. So you can see the cul-de-sac right there on the top of the page. Is Matson's development, so.
Madsen's
Oh,
development,
this is on
this is
the north
south,
side of the freeway?
south side of the
I
freeway.
don't know where it's at.
Go underneath the overpass,
Barfus Garage
past
is.
Maverick,
Okay.
okay? And you come to the Tremont city limits, and then you get to the Gary Madsen part, and then
It's directly east of.
The cement plant,
it's just
just
east
east
of
of
that.
that.
East of the cement plant, back to the Barfus Garage Road.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what we doing with sewer?
They gotta put a pump station in over there, don't they? Didn't they have to put a pump station in?
Lift station, and that's what
Or
we're
lift?
working on the,
You know what, Jeff, why don't you come up here, because I just worry about the, I know this is just the work session, but maybe if you can come up.
sitting or standing.
You can sit.
Nope. So, Brody Calder owned this piece first and started the annexation process on it, and then the parcel that was discussed earlier this week came in, and so he is working at the very, very beginning steps of that annexation process, and trying to get the petition put in order. Because of the potential with that piece, this one is probably gonna sit for a minute. But all of this will be serviced by a lift station, and that's why the sensitivity around the next portion is trying to get that as far south so that it can serve as much, or it can serve as many acres as possible without having to have multiple down Iowa strings, because that's not a road, at least from the city planner's point of view, that we want to have to do a lot of construction in multiple times. So we're trying to this piece will be done and sit for a while we work through the annexation for the next phases.
And the pump station will be down there by the church. What, is it that far south?
It'll go as far south as we can get people to approve it. If at most, it'll be in the southern portion of his property, which would be north of the event center that's out there. If the property owner south is okay with being annexed in, we would look at trying to work and put the lift station down near the intersection of Iowa String Road and 9800 South.
See, I thought it was gonna tie into the one road that takes you to Barfus Garage, but it's gonna tie into the one on 1000 West, huh? The
Yeah.
sewer?
Yeah, so the idea with, because the hope is that we would be able to put it against Iowa String so that it could start servicing, the western part of Iowa String. It is possible because east of the railroad tracks is in Elwood City's future plan. Our boundary is our eastern boundary down there is the tracks. We are considering talking to Elwood about maybe servicing that because it makes more sense where Sierra Homes has put utilities along right next to a few of the underpasses there. So, but we need to have a discussion because 20 or so years ago when when all the cities here tried to fill in the gaps because of the state regulations, Elwood grabbed from the tracks to the Malad River. and it's probably now's the first time where it's looked more feasible for Tremont to service it instead of Elwood.
How many houses are coming in as proposed? Is it,
This is averaging 3 units an acre. We're hoping it's some sort of mixed residential development that would have everything from acre lots down to a few fourplexes.
The water's already there?
No, he'll have to pull it from is that 300 West? There that goes in front through on the next to the railroad tracks. He'll have to pull it from there and then loop it through and connect it back where our line dead ends next to the cul-de-sac development, the Madsen
So
development.
over the south of the freeway, east of the tracks is Elwood.
Well, it's in there.
not Elwood.
It's
Oh,
not.
but it's in there.
It's not
In their
Elwood.
annexation.
Yeah, but they penciled that in for them, so I think if we annexed it in, we'd have to get Elwood's approval of it first, which
We're
is,
kind of planning on a meeting with Elwood next week where we will talk about this very issue.
The railroad tracks is always tough.
So the main question I usually ask is fiscal impacts. Initial to get the development developed, sewers, everything else, lift station, everything else versus the impact fees and then ongoing cost to the city beyond that
like, in what regard?
for annexing and having those houses built.
We won't pay any of our own permit fees. I don't know.
That's permit fees, but that doesn't tell me about the rest of the cost to put in the lift station, sewers, everything
Developer will
else.
be covering
Developer
most
pays
of
all.
that.
Developer
I mean,
Most of
pays
it,
for
what's
that
the
and
rest?
we take it over.
well,
We- there-
Some ideas, dollar amounts.
There's,
we're not there. I mean, we're talking annexation. I mean, he could put, we
But-
don't know. Like, we're just asking, at this point, we're just asking what will come in. There's no development agreement. There's a concept plan of what he might do with it.
It's-
So we have to commit that we would be willing to service it first and incorporate it into the city.
Without knowing what the cost would be.
Well, the cost for installation would be borne by the developer. And we don't know, because we don't know what the developer, if any, would have to do on the ground. If you zone for a very high density thing, it's going to require an expensive thing. But if you just leave it as ag land, it's not going to require much at all. So the cost would be relative to what the developer wants to put in the ground. And that's a question what we don't have the answer to right now.
So I'm trying to figure out how to vote because I'm voting uninformed. I don't know what the fiscal impact would be to our residents, to our tax base, everything else.
They won't pay for it.
No, our current residents will not pay anything. They'll be
Well, that's why I asked long-term, because yes, they will. There will be police coverage, there will be road work, there will be other
They'll pay-
things that will occur.
tax fees are involved in.
yeah, they'll pay a proportionate share of the same that everyone will pay. Just, they're currently enjoying police protection, water and sewer, all of those things. These new people will pay for their share as well through the property taxes and other things that they pay.
So something like that wouldn't lead to any kind of tax proposal for an increase?
Shouldn't.
Shouldn't, okay, thank you.
I got a question, and I'm just new to all this, but if we put 35 acres, in the long run, does that make the city money? I mean, I know if we don't do it and they build the subdivision, we're still gonna provide the fire, we're still gonna do.
Right.
But is it revenue generated or is it?
Residential never pays for itself, and that's a hard thing about it. The manufacturing, the commercial areas of town definitely pay for the residential services that the people in the residential areas enjoy. It's something like 95 cents on the dollar that residential areas contribute to the budget, and commercial areas are something like $1.10 on the dollar for tax revenues. So your commercial areas and your manufacturing areas and that kind of thing, they definitely are the ones that are generating the revenue for the rest of us. Now, you can't have a city without having residential areas. And so you use the commercial development and the manufacturing areas to offset those costs and values. So, yeah, it's both hands are washing
I
each
can
other.
see that, but what's the advantage? What's just a flat advantage?
There's a couple of
us
advantages.
annex it?
There's a couple of advantages. Yeah.
This one struggle Tremont is dealing with is that I-15/84 stops the growth. There's very little area, there's no room to the north because of Garland. There's not a lot of room to the east because we don't have, except for water, we don't have infrastructure that direction. This is the first step to get on the other half of what our annexation map is. And once these utilities are over there, the ability to bring commercial along Iowa String, the ability to bring commercial and start filling out areas in the transportation master plan become feasible. The struggle that we have with any annexation, any growth right now west of the interstate is how do we get utilities under UDOT? That's not an expensive question to answer. So that's the first thing is Brody is willing to bite the bullet to get us utilities on the other half of Tremont. Because with where the city's approved for our growth is gonna be sandwiching 84. And there's no way for us to grow out there if we can't get infrastructure.
There's a couple of advantages to having a residential development in the city as opposed to in the county. We have infrastructure guidelines that would come into play to make sure that they meet our standards. We have enhanced zoning that would allow for more dense development as opposed to having land on development on well and septic or septic tanks using our water systems or West Corinne water, those kinds of things. There's a number of advantages like that, but most important, I think, is that we have a say in what goes on as opposed to just leaving it up to the county and whatever the county will allow.
And then we still have to cover them with police.
Exactly, because you know that our guys are going to roll on those calls anyway, and they should. I mean, it's a responsibility that is, people are in need, and it's not a question of whether we will go or not. Although we did joke in Texas, that the ambulances should come with a card reader on the back to see if people can pay for the ambulance, because we were hauling so many people that didn't end up paying anyway. But we will go on all of those things and help out.
Yeah, and
And then we have control over what, if you look at the Madsen, and not picking on this one, but it's just a good example. He put in that subdivision, it's all on septic. And now we're starting to see, at least I'm hearing reports, that there's some of those septic tanks that are starting to fail and already. And at some point, do the residents say they want to become part of Tremont, and then who's going to pay for that? Then that does become an issue.
Yeah.
And so, and the county is working with us, and they've already, if they're within so much distance of the city, they have to, that developer has to apply or at least request to see if we want to annex them or not. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. Probably in this case, it makes sense that we annex this property into the city.
There is an effort underway right now at the state level to try to figure out this annexation process and make it more straightforward. Right now, if there are property owners in a large group of properties that want to annex and some don't, they can kind of wag the dog, as it were, instead of the tail wagging the dog. It's something that is being looked at very closely to make sure that it's done equitably and cities aren't left holding the bag on residential areas that they don't necessarily want, or even, I don't want to say even worse, but even worse, agricultural areas that they don't want because they don't provide revenue and just are a demand on services. So it's something that's being very closely considered even as we speak.
And I heard reports that the county recently put even more guidelines on having multifamily housing in the county boundary.
That's right.
And with that, you're gonna now see more annexation requests and developers looking to have to come into the city to build, because there aren't a lot of people that can afford to build acre, half acre lots in the county to their guidelines. And so, I feel now with that change and with just within Box Elder County, growth in the city is going to come faster. The other part with this as well is that there was no zoning requirements on this from the county's viewpoint, and so without annexing it, it's up to Brody to just see what he can build on there to make it work. There weren't any regulations there, so whatever the health department would sign off on, they could make work, which becomes a bigger possible labor for the city that doesn't involve any kind of tax compensation back.
For myself as a comment, and I don't think it'll be any surprise, the meetings I've held with the public and the talks that I've had with several people outside of those meetings about annexations are opposed. Huge majority is opposed, 84%, quite frankly. And they're concerned about trying to maintain the culture and lifestyle that we have now. The top three things that were here were all related to a smaller town field, not getting up to 25, 50,000 people here in Tremont. And so I will continue to represent the majority's wishes. So just no surprise, I could be alone, but FYI.
So just to add a little bit more onto this, this is a good discussion. And I'm well aware of all these people who do not want any growth, and annexing they think is the tool to stop it. We just barely, about a year ago, it's been about 2 years ago now, we had the health department come in, and the individual that runs that, I forget his name,
Came last
He was here when you was gone. He come give us a
he talked
refresher.
about what happened in Vernal.
Yep.
And we're still having this discussion. That's amazing.
And we asked
Yeah,
him.
we don't want to annex, but we have to annex to control, so we don't get brown water on the ground, and that's what we're getting out there.
When he was here, we asked him the question about that community that's just south of the city boundary line off Iowa String, and he said it was fine. He wasn't aware of any problems. I agree at this point.
At this
I hear you.
point, but I grew up out there, and it's clay. I guarantee you, I've watched it happen out there.
Well, and
We've also got the subdivision coming out here in Bothwell. You know, the houses are starting to come in around us. And if the state comes in and makes Tremont do what they made Vernal do and put in lift tanks at the cost of the taxpayers, we're not doing our job as a city council to protect the taxes if we don't consider the annexing. And the annexing, again, I don't want it, but it's to control and it's to protect the community so we don't get sewer problems like they've had other areas.
Well, and in this instance too, it's not anything the city's initiated. This is private development coming to the city saying, for the betterment of my development, I would like to attach to the public infrastructure. And it's not anything that the city is going out knocking doors going, hey, we'd like you to just now jump over to the city. You know, and we had a meeting yesterday with West Corinne to make sure that this development gets considered, what impact it has on their water system and what, you know, how to make it make sense from their point of view. And at the end of the meeting, the president agreed that they supported it, correct? Like, you know, they were sad to see those service members go, but there's such a long backlist that West Corinne has that they can now go service other people as Tremont grows out into their service district.
Another issue that I think needs to be, you know, people talk about quality of life, and one of those factors or one of those areas of quality of life is they enjoy the open space, they enjoy the agriculture, and that's an important part of all of this. I would like to take that a little step further, and if we talk about agriculture, let's talk about production and commercial agriculture. And the more we can keep the growth in the incorporated areas, let's just say Brigham and Tremont and some of the other incorporated areas, as long as if we can kind of focus that growth in those areas and leave the commercial agriculture to do what commercial agriculture does. I recognize people have property rights and all that kind of thing, but what I'm trying to say is, every time we start seeing these subdivisions pop up in Collingston or wherever, all these little things starting to pop up, that has an impact on commercial agriculture. And if we want to preserve that, then it makes a lot of sense to me to have growth in the incorporated areas. It's going to move out, it's going to grow. I understand that, but I think it just makes a lot of sense to do that. And so that's my two bits to why, that's where I think protecting the quality of life comes into play also.
You want the populace to be in the city and the rural to be rural. Bothwell's got it down. They got the rule there that you got to have 5 acres before you can put a house on it. That's rural. That's keeping our lifestyle the way it is. The county ought to be doing that. When they went down to a half acre, I mean, they're letting the city. And the thing about it is, we can't be blind to the fact that when they put these subdivisions out around in the county, we still have to service them people. So why not have them in the city where they're actually paying for it? That's
they're
the
gonna
whole
build that
point.
either way.
They don't pay for it out
And there's
there.
still gonna be more people. I agree with what Jeff said, but they're still gonna be there, and we just will get their money.
That's what I'm saying. That's protecting our citizens.
Do we have any other questions on Brody's annexation? We can probably, let's briefly go through.
Rest, because I got to take a break pretty quick.
You want to take a break for a second?
Oh, I just talk fast.
They talk fast. All right. Let's see, do we have any other questions for Curtis with the budget? I think we had a good discussion there. I think we can,
Thanks, Jeff.
let's see. Okay, certified tax rate, no changes. We're just going to accept the certified tax rate the county is.
Our proposal is that we accept the certified tax rate. We don't propose a tax increase, and so part of this is just having the council adopt that resolution so that we can sign the certified tax rate. Send it in.
All right. Okay, let's see. Bill, why don't you fill us in on, or Lindsay, on the insurance? Let's see, resolution number 2436.
So typically we do this before the final budget in case you had any changes. It kind of slipped through the cracks this year with all the changes going on. I just found out and was like, oh, we should probably do that. So luckily, nothing's changing this year. We stayed with our same Select Health as our medical insurance, same dental, same everything. The only change was a slight increase in the deductible on the high deductible plan. City pays 90% of premiums, with employees paying the other 10% of premiums. I think HSA contributions we've kept the same. See, I think that's what I would fill you in on, is just, yeah, everything's pretty much staying the same. I just thought we should probably pass this resolution like we do annually, just to make sure we're all good with what we've got.
Okay. We're moving through here. Let's see. Health insurance, the 2437, the public safety and retirement system. Explain to us what's kind of going on there.
So URS sets the contribution rates every year for our retirement program. 2 or 3 years ago, it used to be totally non-contributory, so the city paid all of the contributions for all of our public employees, public safety. Well, in the last few years, they've started requiring employees to contribute into their pension program. So for 2 or 3 years, it's been 2.59% that somebody in a tier 2, so anyone hired after July 1st of 2010 is in the tier 2 retirement system. they've started making those employees, they started with public safety, were required to put into their own pension. So it was 2.59%, has been for the last couple of years. This year, they upped it to 4.73%. So what we proposed, what we put into the budget, was to have the city cover that extra 2.14%, that they increased it this year. So the employees would still just be paying that 2.59% they've been used to paying the last couple of years. This includes fire also, Tier 2 fire and Tier 2 public safety.
As a raise to their income.
No, we pay it directly to URS. So instead of them coming out of their paycheck paying that much, we're picking up a portion of that amount and we're paying it to Utah
It
Retirement
seems
Systems.
contrary to what they're demanding or asking, the employee paying 4 point some odd percent.
And the IRS, no, I mean, they can, we can make them pay the whole 4.73%.
I understand. It seems like we're bending the rule there. It
No,
seems
the
like we're-
IRS allows it, it's called a pickup election. You could do the whole amount, you can do a partial amount, you can do whatever you want. That said, in the Tier 2 public employees, so not public safety, just public employees like office people, they also are required to contribute this year. It's only 0.07%, 7% of their pay. Nope, 0.07, sorry. The IRS did not allow employers to pick that portion up. From what I heard from my HR group, I think the legislature could have got it passed, but they didn't understand. Anyway, so we're not allowed to pick up the public employees, but we are allowed to pick up public safety. So,
So if you want the same amount, you just took a 0.7% cut in pay.
but we,
If you put the same amount,
yes, but we in the budget, again, increased those people. Their COLA is slightly more than just the 3% to cover for that, so that they're being held harmless, since they wouldn't allow us to pick it up. So those ones that will actually go in their paycheck, but then they'll be required to pay into their pension program. We can't pick that one up. So URS just makes us do a formal resolution policy. We just have to have something formal passed by the city council saying this is what we're doing. So I'll send this on to URS if it's passed tonight, and we'll start picking that portion up for employees instead of making them pay it. I think it helps with recruitment. If you've got two options that are fairly similar
Sure.
and you've got one that pays
The
all
two-
of it or part of it and one that you have to pay the whole thing, you're gonna go to the employer that helps you pay for it, I would think. Less coming out of your paycheck, but
All the other things held equal.
yeah.
Okay, we got the approval of the beer license for El Cholito coming up. And finally, I wanted to, we do have the option to accept or deny the Allred annexation. Now, there's a difference with this one and the Brody Calder annexation, so maybe we can clarify that with everybody. Bill, do you want to? That, or do you want to have Jeff? Jeff, do you want to take that? And
The all red annexation.
the difference, kind of the difference between the two.
So the RF annexation is the next phase for houses that have been built along something west. It's the last road before you hit the Salt Creek dip going out. Yeah, there it is.
Road numbers on there, but there you go.
And so those houses there with the, 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, I think that was the first portion. So this 74 is the next. There's no infrastructure out near them. To build this to city standards would require some connection underneath the I-84 interchange there west of McDonald's, and finding a way to pump the sewer back there. And so
This is an island too, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, if we annexed
No,
it
it's at-
in, it would become an island. But because it's in our future annexation plan, that could be permitted. The struggle with it though is that there's just we don't have anything out there for them to connect onto, and it would be extremely expensive
The city.
to anyone. I mean, the city, the developer, whoever's carrying the cost of putting in water and sewer out there. I mean, the difference with Calder is that we have water lines right next to an underpass and then already on that side. So there's water near the Calder annexation. There's nothing within proximity to this.
So you got to punch under the freeway.
You'd have to punch under the freeway with 3 different utilities.
And so I think that was looked into with Sean. Wasn't it like 1.2 million to punch under?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it depends on what you're,
That was then.
that was then. And
Yeah.
so,
And so that's been the stop of even trying to annex out that way. But this is a perfect example. I mean, those are half-acre lots, aren't they? The
Yeah.
houses are there and build on it. And if the state comes in and assesses that we got to fix it, we fix it,
yeah.
not at our
Yeah.
choice.
The other hard part with this is, this is starting to get near where, with our transportation master plan, the Commerce Way is supposed to go through. It's close to, but it's like this parcel wouldn't be one of them that needs to have the right-of-way dedication. So, having this much residential out there, though, really handcuffs what the city could do along that road, because there's so many residential frontage now. If you were gonna try and expand that to be any kind of arterial or collector road, you would have to look at having all of those entrances be redesigned somehow, which has been a struggle as cities in Cache Valley have even grown. Yeah, this is one of those, this is one of the struggles with annexation over on the west side, is that it's very expensive and it would take a very large developer to get the utilities on that side of the road.
So in this case, this developer probably doesn't want annexation. Second of all,
He
if,
doesn't want to force that on them either.
correct, but if the city wanted to follow the plan and annex them in, he would be required to get sewer and everything up to a certain point, and we'd be required to get it to him.
No.
He'd be required to get it all the way to the city?
And so that's where the development agreement comes in, is he would be required to get it to the city. With like River's Edge though, where we've used impact fees after the development's been collected to help reimburse and pay for that on the back end, like we did with the RDA as well. You can look at that, and that's just kind of distributing the cash flow as it comes to the city. But if this parcel was going to be developed to city standards, they would have to take all the utilities from near McDonald's and punch them all the way out almost to the Salt Creek.
But we still got all them houses on the front are on septics.
Yeah, and everything in here will be on septics too.
Well, they will, but I mean, if we were,
Well, if we were coming
that'd be a
through,
mess.
you'd ask, if we were coming through because of it being a lift station, you'd be asking if they, would. if
We'd do
they
a
want to
pioneering
connect on,
agreement.
Because you might, so there's a planning conundrum about the west side of Tremont and on the other side of the interstate.
Do we have a strategy about that area that we've developed, because it seems like at some point we're gonna have to do it.
Well,
Write it off.
for the interim, which I don't know what that window looks like, it's lift stations pumping back to current city main lines that have been designed to hold it. There's large sewer lines that parallel the interstate, that connect into Rocket Road, that have been designed to handle all of that. The water becomes a whole another conundrum. The biggest question is, at what point is there enough growth out there to consider, and enough wastewater generation to consider maybe a second treatment plant? Which, if you ask anyone from Public Works, will say one's enough to handle. I don't know if they want two, but Plain City and Hooper will tell you that having lift stations on lift stations is not an extremely feasible wastewater design either. So, it's flat out there too, which doesn't help when trying to create gravity networks.
So I imagine they're wanting us to deny this annexation.
Yes. That would be my own personal recommendation.
And the county's going to continue allowing them to build on half-acre lots. That's the problem. they're causing the problem.
So,
Declare a 5-minute break,
All
Mayor.
right, I declare a
I'm
5.
done. I don't know where you guys are going.
everyone, Wes?
to thank you for coming out this evening. We're for our Tremont City Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 7:03 p.m. And what we'll do is we'll just kind of go around and it's kind of a tradition, but we want to go. We got some new faces, and so I wanted to be able to go around and kind of introduce you to them. And so we have our new city manager,
Think so.
Bill Kobabe, and he is with us now, bow tie and all. I'm going to ask him the significance of the bow tie sometime. I know that there must be some significance to that. I know with some doctors that graduate from Johns Hopkins, that's what they do. That's how they.
Let's go with that, Mayor. I think that's
That's what I thought. You'd be from Johns Hopkins. Okay. To my left over here on the council bench, got Jeff Holt, Councilmember Jeff Holt, Councilmember Blair Westergaard, Lyle Vance, myself, Councilmember Brett Rhodey, and Wes Eastep. We've got our city recorder, Lindsay Nesson, and accountant that keeps it all straight and everybody, so we understand what's going on financially, Curtis Roberts. Let's see, who else we got here? We got Jeff Seedall, our planner, and Brady Hanson. And we got Dustin back there hiding behind, okay, we got there. And Sarah Mormon, our city Main Street manager. Did I miss anybody? Anyway, welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here with us this evening, and I've got a full agenda, so we'll jump right into it. First of all, council, are there any declarations? What's that? Oh, my heck. That's your job. Make sure we get it right. Okay. I've been advised that I have completely overlooked the opening ceremony. So with that, we're going to have Blair offer us an opening word of prayer, and then Blair Westergaard will.
Brett's gonna say the prayer. Brett. And
not gonna-
Blair.
No, you can see me go.
Let's just start over. Okay, we're going to have Brett Rhodey lead us in the opening prayer, and now that Blair's, your heart started again, didn't it? Okay, he'll lead us in the.
Don't want it to fall down.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet tonight. We're thankful for the opportunity to serve and to help in these positions. Please help us that we can have civil discussion and debate and be able to represent the citizens of Tremont City to the best of our knowledge and capability. We're thankful for this government system and the great freedoms that we have been given through our vets and through all those that have fought for our independence and for our rights. We ask you to bless them and those that continue to serve us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And
Blair?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brett and Blair. Apologize for the mix-up there. Okay, council, do we have any conflicts of interest with the agenda tonight? Okay, we'll move ahead. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second it.
Motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of the minutes. One is a town hall meeting from May 16th, 2024, and the other is a council meeting from June 4th. Were there any questions or changes that needed to be made on the on the minutes.
I do have an amendment.
Okay?
I'm trying to look up, make sure I'm looking at the right page. I believe it is page 8 of the council minutes. Yes, it is. In there, where it's, can you go down, just go the other way? Okay, current, nope, that looks different. Go down. Let me see what page, yeah, go to page 8, I'm sorry, at the bottom of the page,
Gotcha.
there. And under mine there, and actually it's right there in the first main paragraph, if you go down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line from the bottom, it says alcoholic beverage control. That should be services, not control. I know they had a name switch, but
I apologize. You had it in, or she had it in there as services, and I changed it control. I thought it was DABC.
All right.
and that's the only amendment I have to offer.
Council, do we have any problem with accepting those changes?
Oh,
Okay. Changes are made. Thank you.
all in favor?
I need a motion.
We need to vote on it.
I'll entertain a vote on the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes, May 16th and June 4th.
Second.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments. This is an opportunity to address the city council regarding your concerns or ideas. We ask you to keep your comments to within 3 minutes, and the time is now yours. Okay, hearing none, we'll continue on. Public hearing. We have 3 public hearings to do tonight. The first is, the public hearing is now open to consider adopting the final budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget for 2024 to 2025, the general fund, capital funds, enterprise funds, special funds for the period ending July 1, 2024, commencing July 1, 2024, and ending June 30, 2025. Public hearing is now open. Seeing no comments or from the public, I'll close that public hearing. The public hearing is now open to consider amending the annual budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 2023 to 2024, the general fund, capital funds, enterprise funds, special funds for the period commencing July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024. Okay. Seeing no comments, I'll close that public hearing. The third is a public hearing to consider the annexation of approximately 35.045 acres of real property referred to as the Brody Calder annexation into Tremont City Incorporated limits. The 35.045 acres of real property is located in Box Elder County at 6590 West and 10,000 North.
I just wanted to reiterate what some of you said during the workshop, that I think it's a good idea to annex because we already know, like, our public service already services these people, whether they're in the county or in the city, but we do get revenue from the property tax to help pay for that. Also, I did want to point out the mention of voting for the majority at that town hall meeting. It was 12 people that stated they don't support annexation. Looked up approximate adults in Tremont, and it's almost 6,800 people. That's way less than 1% of our population in this town hall meeting, stating that they don't support annexation. I do think through conversations that we've had, the majority, when it properly explained to them, would support annexation, because why should we pay for these services for people who, with our tax dollars, who aren't contributing? And so with the annexation, they get to contribute into that pot, and pay into the systems that they're still benefiting from, I think that's just important. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Brody Calder. First off, I believe it would be helpful to those attending the public hearing to recognize what the purpose of this annexation request is. Today we're not discussing whether or not this property can be developed. This property can be developed because of the property rights of the owner. This annexation will just determine which code the property is developed to the county codes or to the city codes. The county has passed new regulations that neighboring properties request annexation within a certain proximity of city limits. Why would the county do this? Is because the county is looking for better development services for the people. The county does not offer sewer, fire, etc. So if you develop to the county, you are looking at septic tanks versus if you're to Tree Mountain City, you are looking at putting in sewer. So to be clear, this is more expensive for, i.e. me, the developer, and the burden of paying infrastructure costs, but really it is the best thing to do for the people. We're being much better stewards of the land, water, and people by using better technology offered through the city. It's also helpful for the tax side of things, as previously mentioned there. We talked to Paul over at Tree Mountain City Public Works, who provided us with charts and a letter. It says, bottom line, the Public Works Director, we have plenty of capacity for the development. Chris Breinholt would agree with me. I also like to mention that plans we are looking to do in this area are part of the Tree Mountain Master Plan that was already in the same zoning as the Tree Mountain wanted to see there. We've discussed this with some of the neighboring properties about learning the principles of annexation, as we had an annexation meeting with Jeff, and it went really well. And the people who showed up there had concerns about their septic tanks, and it would be very helpful for them if we were to incorporate them as well in future looks at annexation of other property. Honestly, it just shows us that developing to a higher standard with sewer systems, pressurized secondary systems, is better for the community and its people. It is better that we work together as a community because we will be better stewards of our land, water, and the earth, and most importantly, better neighbors.
Thank you, Brody. Okay, public hearing is now closed on item C. Council, we have new council business to consider. Item A, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-33, approving a final budget entitled the Tree Mountain City Annual Implementation Budget 2024 to 2025, the general fund, capital funds, enterprise funds, and special funds for the period commencing July 1, 2024, and ending June 30, 2025. Council?
Well, we've already discussed this in very much detail, right?
Yes.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2433, the final budget.
I'll second it.
Motion by Brett and seconded by Wes. Let's see, Wes? we'll
Wes,
start-
aye.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff O'Dye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Item number B, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-34, approving the certified tax rates for the 2024 tax year. Council? We've, and for those of you that came in at 7 o'clock, we have been through all these items and discussed them quite at length. So it's not a flippant, we're just approving things. So we have discussed this at some length. Curtis, why don't you just give us one little rundown on that and what the approving the certified tax rate means?
Thanks, Mayor. Just as a reminder, we actually start this budget process clear back in February and had some initial discussions with the city council back then. We had much more discussions in May during the tentative budget process in which we presented the tentative budget. City council made recommendations. We took those. We've now incorporated those concepts into the final budget, which we spent time in the last meeting as well as this workshop just before this meeting. So just to point out the specific timeframes of how long this discussion's been happening. And I really want to take time to express my appreciation to the council for the input during this budget process, to be able to share ideas and be able to look for ways to incorporate the various ideas of all the city council members. One of the final aspects of passing the budget for the fiscal year 24-25 is adoption of the certified tax rate. Now, this certified tax rate is calculated by the county, provided to the state. The state goes through and verifies the information from the county, does a final calculation, and presents a certified tax rate. If the council chooses to adopt the certified tax rate, there's no further action other than we sign the certified rate certificate and send it in to the state. That property tax will be adopted. If the council was to consider increasing, there'd be additional steps that the council would have to go through a truth and taxation hearing that would happen in August. We're choosing not to do that this year. The budget that you adopted was based off of using the certified tax rate. And so we're fully compliant with the law, and the certified tax rate is what we're recommending for adoption.
Thank you, Curtis. Thanks.
I make a motion that we pass to the resolution 2434 approving the certified tax rate for 2020.
I second it.
Motion by Blair Westergaard and seconded by Lyle Vance. Brett?
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, aye.
West side.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Letter number D, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-36, selecting health insurance carriers and defining the city's contribution for health insurance employee benefits for the 2024 to 25 fiscal year. Let's see, Lindsay, did you want to just kind of fill us in on that briefly?
It's no different than what
No.
you said.
No
before, right?
different, but I'm just thinking for the general public, maybe just,
Just solidifying who we use for our medical insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, life insurance, all of those. Also solidifying that the city pays 90% of premiums with the employees paying the remaining 10%. None of our insurance carriers changed this year. We're sticking with who we've been with for the last few years, so.
I make a motion, we adopt resolution number 24-36, selecting health insurance carriers and defining the city's contribution for health insurance employee benefits for the next year.
Second it.
motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Blair Westergaard. Let's see.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, aye.
West side.
Brett, aye.
Hey, skipped over item C. We're going to do that now. Discussion and consideration of approving resolution number 24-35, adopting the revised Tremonton City compensation and classification plan.
So we update this every year because we're getting 3% COLAs. That increases our minimum and maximums of our pay ranges 3%. It also includes the police department step scale that they've proposed this year. It does also include some new positions that we approved within the budget also, so.
We're gonna have some pressure on us with all these police persons in here, don't we?
This ain't the one that they're wanting to, they want to go to E. Oh,
When you guys skip that, she sort of elbowed me.
Sorry about that. It was not intentional.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 24-35.
I'll second it.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Brett. Let's see.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, aye.
West side.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now we can go on to item number E. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-37, approving the amendments to the Tremonton City Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual. Section number 16, benefits regarding Tier 2 Public Safety Retirement System Division A, Fund 75, and Tier 2 Firefighter Retirement System Division A, Fund 31. That's kind of a mouthful. Any questions on any of this?
Has to do with their 401Ks,
Their
correct?
pension.
Their pensions.
Required to pay into their pension too. We're picking up the extra portion that URS put on them this year.
You explain that in detail. I make a motion, we adopt resolution number 24-37, approving amendments to the Tremont City Policies and Procedures Manual, benefits regarding Tier 2 Public Safety Retirement System Division, Fund 75, Tier 2 Firefighter, Retirement System Division A, Fund 31.
Second.
Motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Jeff. Jeff?
Aye.
West side.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Thank you. Item number F, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-38, amending the budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 2023 to 2024, General Fund, Capital Funds, Enterprise Funds, and Special Funds for the period commencing July 1, 2023, and ending June 30, 2024. So we're amending the budget for the current year.
I make a motion, we pass resolution 24-38 for amending the budget for current budget.
Second.
Motion by Blair and seconded by Jeff.
West side.
Brett, aye.
This is the 25% to 35% deal, right? Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item G, discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance number 24-08, annexing approximately 35.045 acres of real property referred to as the Brody Calder annexation into Tremont City's incorporated limits. The 35.045 acres of real property is located in Box Elder County at 6590 west and 10,000 north. Do we have a discussion on this?
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 24-8, annexing the 35 acres, the Calder acres.
I'll second it.
Motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Wes Eastep. Let's see.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, nay.
West side.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Item H, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-39, amending Tremont City's Articles of Incorporation to include approximately 35.045 acres of real property referred to as the Brody Calder annexation into Tremont City's incorporated limits. The 35.045 acres of real property is located at 6590 west, 10,000 north.
Same thing. I make a motion
Yeah,
that we adopt resolution number 24-39.
I second it.
motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Blair. Westergaard,
Start with Lyle.
you're on, we're to you.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Ode, nay.
West side.
Brett, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Item I, discussion and consideration of approving an on-premise beer license for El Chilito Mexican Restaurant.
I move to approve the license.
I second it.
Motion by Jeff Holt, seconded by Brett. Rhodey, all, let's see. Blair?
Blair, aye.
Oh, wait a minute. No, this isn't all
Not
in
a-
favor. This is not, a so we can just,
Resolution.
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. There you go. Discussion of accepting or denying the Allred annexation petition. And again, for the audience, we have really discussed this at quite some length. So if it looks like we're just kind of moving through them, we've had a lot of discussion about this. Council?
I make a motion here that we, knowing that the developer really doesn't want to annex, I think that we ought to open the door up and see if there's a way we can help him help himself make this thing happen. I think we ought to open the door up and bring him in, see if we can find a way.
You're saying to accept the annexation?
No, not to accept it. Put it,
Deny it?
To table it.
to table it, bring the contractor in and get kind of a group of people in there and see if we can find a way to make it work for both him and the city.
All right, I just didn't understand where you were going with that. Now I do. So the motion is to table item number J8.
We're not accepting and we're not denying. We're saying, let's sit down and talk.
So you're saying table it.
Table it.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to table that and we're going to continue the discussion with all reds to see if we can find a solution that'll work for everybody.
Jeff, can we set a meeting up with him? I'd like to be a part of that meeting.
I can work on it.
Thank you.
Good deal. Okay, we have one item on the consent agenda, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-40, ratifying the final acceptance of Matheson Apartments. Bill or?
Yeah.
I'm gonna defer to Jeff on this.
Okay,
Got tired of standing. This is the, so with every development, there normally is some portion of public infrastructure that's been installed. And so as it's being completed, Chris Breinholt comes and inspects it, and Paul does as well. And so Matheson has reached the point that all of the public infrastructure that they've installed is is satisfactory to both Chris and Paul. And they've requested that we release the escrow that we were holding to them. It's just part of the development phase, and we're releasing back money that they gave to us at the beginning of the development. So
Okay. I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution 24-40.
I second that.
motion by Wes and seconded by Brett. Let's see, Blair.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Odi?
West side.
Red eye.
Vance, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Let's review the calendar items. Make sure we kind of have an idea what's coming up. There will be no council meeting on July 2nd as it's proximity to the 4th of July. We figured that probably would be wise not to do that. We do have our first steering committee meeting on June 20th. That's this Thursday. We've invited, we've got a steering committee identified, and I've agreed to participate, and we're looking forward to some good things to come from them. The Mugs and Bananas on the 22nd.
What time is that at?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock here?
6 o'clock in this room right here. Mugs and Bananas on Friday. Larry, you going to burn out with your pickup?
I think I'll bring my Model T, but yeah.
There you go. Classic.
Okay.
Saturday, Mayor.
Saturday, though.
Not
Saturday,
Friday.
not
Saturday.
Friday. Okay, Saturday. Thank you.
I think
Farmers Market on the 6th. We it's become a tradition now that we do hot dogs that day and a watermelon bust and watermelon eating contest, so it'll be a lot of fun.
So you need our help with the hot dogs? You would like our help with the hot
Yeah,
dogs?
yeah, we would.
What time?
I think we started about 11:30 last time.
Like
Started
us
serving about
11:30 or 11?
Maybe a little before that.
Okay.
So,
I think we did the watermelon at 11, and then as soon as that was done, have hot dogs.
fill them up with watermelon and then really fill them up with hot dogs.
Okay.
That's on what day again?
Saturday, the 22nd.
Second?
The 6th of the farmers market. Or which one are you on?
You can't go.
Okay. He tells me when I can't go. He knows I'm obligated already.
Okay. Let's see, we have the city days coming up on the 19th through the 20th. A-days coming up, so we're looking forward to that. And for Jeff and Blair, we serve breakfast that morning. We cook breakfast for the community on
Both days or just one day?
Just Saturday,
Which date is that? I'm sorry, is that
20th,
20th? Thank you.
7 o'clock.
I have a calendar in front of me.
Be there at 7, I think.
Oh, man.
What's that?
I think we was there at 7.
Yeah.
Be Paul's last year, so
Oh,
set up,
oh, man. Yeah.
Nope. go.
Okay,
Not that far of a drive from Island Park, so I'll be here by 7.
okay. Fair enough.
You're coming all the way back.
Let's see, administration reports. Are there any other calendar items I forgot about?
For action items, I do have one more item. We had discussed it at the workshop, but that was to have the city prepare a proposed plan for awarding funds for moderate income housing by the month of December.
Okay, can you do that in your council report?
If that's a preference, that'd be fine.
Let's do that in your council report,
Okay.
because I'm looking forward to hearing that. Let's see, let's see, Bill, do you have anything for us?
Nope, just drinking from the fire hose. Life is good, learning a lot. We have an incredible staff, and I'm honored to be here and work with them. So
Well, we're glad you're on board. We
I'm
really
happy.
are.
Amen.
Thank you. Let's see, Lindsay, do you have anything else for us? Okay. DRC reports. Jeff, don't go sitting down yet. Anything on DRC you need to share with us? Okay. Bill, Lindsay?
Do we have anything tomorrow?
No, it's Juneteenth tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, that's right, it's a day off tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, department head reports. Let's start with you. Let's see, Dustin, why don't we start with you?
Couple quick updates. Of course, this ain't gonna work for me. Do it just by being loud. So we recently expanded the SWAT team a little bit. Perry's joined that joint MOU. So that's good for everybody. Just adds to our numbers and helps us problem solve as things come up. In speaking with the sheriff, they have had more incidents where we've been utilized in the last year than they have in like the last 5 to 10 years. I don't really know what to attribute that to, but I'm glad we have emergency operations in place for that. We had a meeting with the school regarding the Guardian programs, basically school safety for active shooter stuff. Everybody's on board. We're working well with all Box Elder County, and it looks like we're gonna be on time to roll that out, and that way we keep all the schools out here safe. The other thing I was just gonna plug is we're gonna start our lemonade stand competition again, round 2. So we're gonna beat Brigham again this year. And the last thing is I just wanna thank you guys for your support. It means a lot. We've accomplished a lot. I've been able to share some of those, but I couldn't do it without you. Our police department couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Questions for me?
Chief, who do we text when we see, because I might get a few miles driving around town.
Yeah.
But he might be out walking and find them too.
It's true.
Who do you want us, Skylar?
Sarah is kind of like our
Is she the middle?
she's the middle. Like
Yeah.
she's our secret weapon. So you let her know, we'll get somebody on it.
Okay.
Anything else? Cool. Thank you guys.
She a lemonade stand. Text Sarah and she'll text him and he'll send the cop.
We appreciate all you guys are doing, you know,
They've done a donut stand.
done some great job. Great work. Brady?
Nothing new to report. I just wanted to express my appreciation for the resolution to pick up the balance of the increase on behalf of the firefighters, the increase to their retirement contribution. That means a lot. It's kind of a morale hit to them if they pick that up, and sometimes that has to happen. Sometimes those decisions have to be made, but I appreciate very much that you were able and willing to pick that up on their behalf. And then secondly, echo what the police chief indicated, appreciate the support on the budget. I feel optimistic and confident with the budget going forward. We're certainly lean, but we are adequate, so we appreciate that. I think we'll be fine.
Thank you. Let's see, Sarah, do you have anything for us? Jeff, anything more? You do?
Oh, he does.
Yeah, he's got these two things on there.
I thought you were tired of standing.
We're not walking.
Okay, there you go.
The first item is, I'll give you these though here really fast. This is for the next topic I'll bring up, but I was working with Zach to get these numbers before he left town. This is I'll sit down so I'm on there. So Kelly Harris came and spoke to me about, and if you don't mind scrolling down, Lindsay, about these properties, and they are right close to, can you go to the one with the aerial? As you can see, the middle school's there off on the left side of the page. This is kind of in that gray area where some of it could connect into Tremont and some of it could connect into Garland. Obviously, the parcels with the frontage to 1,000, what Tremont City calls 1,000 North, can make sense into Garland, but the rest could, with a little development, connect into Holmgren Estates. So this is what I came to get feedback on from the council of what our response may be to the developer and to Garland City about annexing this in to the blue parcels into their city.
Well, we already go, everything on the east and south of that is Tremont, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it makes sense to just keep it in Tremont.
it's not in Tremont.
It makes sense to put it in Tremont.
So that's just what I came to because
That's my opinion.
we can work on drafting a response
Protest.
to file a protest against it if there are pieces that we feel. Something I've been working with the school district on is, and talking to the developer about, is seeing if all of this acreage could fit a new junior high, given its proximity to the current city's infrastructure, or both the city and the school district, or the other schools. So this is a piece that I have my own personal wishes for, but I just wanted the council's feedback on if we should file a protest.
You're saying to keep it, you're saying.
It's part of
you want
Garland now?
annexing. It's
No, so this is county and they're
part of
looking
our
to annex
annexation
in.
plan.
It's borderline, like it could go
Either way.
and so they're petitioning to annex it into Garland. And so I just needed the council's input on if we need to file a
I
protest.
believe they're on Garland's water and Garland's sewer there.
Some are, the two lots, I think one of the lots is, but I think the rest are still septic. They may be on Garland water, but I think most are septic.
I think we need to do a little more research. Paul could tell us.
I don't know, and I'll look into that too.
And one of the reasons I think it has to do with secondary water. Garland does not require
We're in county.
secondary water. It's a cost issue with,
Yeah, I mean, all the utilities would have to, but he owns the land adjacent to it, so he doesn't have to work with any other developer to pull the utilities from Holmgren up to those parcels.
Right there by Jay Sandals' house, right? Yeah.
Owns someone else's.
well, it would be Jay Sandals where they'd
Yeah.
have to pull it in off that,
They'd loop it back by
loop it
yours.
back, yeah.
Garland and Tremont, and there's.
I just know that that's one of the issues
Garland and where is
on his
Tremont?
mind.
It's Garland. Junior high's in Garland, right?
Yeah. Because we also have I think, it's my understanding we have a water line in that road as well.
We do, but it's our main.
So,
So it's your recommendation that we,
protest.
This is not a decision we're going to be making tonight, but I think
No.
we need to make it on our next,
Yeah, well, or at least, I need to see when the 30-day window closes to file a protest.
all right,
so you're just looking for a yay or nay if we ought to protest it?
sort of a
Yeah.
direction.
Mm-hmm.
Council, what do
So
you
is
do you
the
think?
house is facing 1,000 or 14 or whatever they call it, like out there, are they in Garland or Tremont? Are
I
they
think they're in the county still. It gets really, I haven't been able to pull up where Garland's map is, but there's a lot of lines through there on the parcel viewer of where each city boundary goes through. And it's a tad confusing because the parcel map uses the same line type, whether it's,
I know the other side of the river is gonna be in Tremont's thing. I mean, I agree with you. I think that line ought to be the line. It's gonna be really confusing for
What line ought to be the line?
that road,
1,000 north.
Road ought to be.
whatever you could.
Yeah.
The 14 or 1,000 on our side or 14 on theirs.
That's what I think too. The road ought to be the boundary.
It's funny because it's not, that ideology is not reflected in our future land use plan. Yeah. We have a lot of boundaries that are just near the
High
road,
schooler
but
in
not the
Garland,
road.
Obviously, that'll stay, but
So, okay. Then, yeah, I'll look into getting that done. It appears we have a majority for protesting.
Okay. What's your other thought?
I have a larger ticket item that I'd like to talk about. Since the very first day I started working here, one of the ticket items that many people have brought to my attention is the need in the community for an indoor recreational center. And so we've been working with VCBO to come up with these concept plans. The idea right now is that with the new school that the school board is looking to build in this area, we would do a shared community center that would allow for the school to use it during school hours and the public to use it on the off-school hours. This precedent has become quite popular in northern Utah with examples in many towns, if you want me to start listing them. And so I don't know financially how this breaks up, and that's a conversation. What I was looking for is a general support or any fixes before I go to the school board in July.
Yeah,
to
I think you
present
need
this.
to run with this. I've always felt that way. I think we need to find out if we charge fees, will we have a break-even point on it? Especially with the school district, jumping in and helping us
Yeah.
with it. Maybe we will. One other thing to think about is ice hockey. We ought to think about ice hockey as part of this because with the new team coming to Utah, there's a lot of funding available, grants,
Yeah.
that they're willing to put out to help put rinks in. And right now, Northern Logan is inundated with, they can't take any more ice hockey teams. So I think it's something else we ought to, would you put that as part of your thinking cap when you're doing this and see if that's something that's could be feasibly added to this?
Oh, yeah. If you don't mind scrolling down and zooming out a little. The amenities when talking with Zach that we wanted to focus on was a more kid-friendly swimming environment. The natatorium is not that, in my opinion. Having a 5-year-old that's going through swimming lessons, it's very hard for them to interact in much of the natatorium because of its general minimum depth is 5 to 6 feet. So this would create a more family-oriented aquatic center. The other large demand is for multi-purpose turf. Using some practices that Zach and I have seen going to other centers is there would be large nets to help divide this turf, and it would target most outdoor sports: baseball, softball, golf, lacrosse, soccer, which are all huge demand here in Tremont. And the last is, and I asked the architect only to hatch this on one, but I think we'd have it on all the courts, would be pickleball and basketball sharing those spaces so that they can be programmed. With the county fairgrounds becoming a more demanded facility, the ability to rely on that as a spot to host city rec league events is becoming harder. So this is what I would like to take to the other options too is having a child watcher daycare spot where parents can bring their kids in to watch while they go to a group fitness class or something else. If you don't mind going to the mezzanine up a little higher. Up above, there would be 2 fitness studios with cardio and weights and an indoor track. Anyone that drives near Jeannie Stevens for the next few months will see how often that asphalt trail is being used for a lot of just people trying to get out and walk. And so this track is about 700 feet long in a loop. So it would be about 8 laps to get a mile in, which isn't too bad. It's a pretty good size for an indoor track. And so the idea behind this would be able to leave this open for the public to use all the time, and working with the school if we can get their support to try and program it that there are spaces open to the public all day, and as needed and as programmed, the school can use portions of it.
Is this on Garland land?
No, if we do this, then we will look at, it will be in Tremont.
Okay, because I thought the diagram showed it by the middle school there. And
That's the new junior high that is gonna be built. The middle school is currently planned to demolish that because it has some infrastructure issues, that you can kind of sense if you walk in. So that building is being demolished, and being replaced with a new junior high school.
which will be at the same location or a different location?
We don't know yet. The school district has 2 or 3 pieces that they're looking at, depending on how much future growth they want to kind of plan for. That's why I think that piece next to the Menlove annexation is so key, because it allows for a lot of public access. And it's about 30 usable acres that you could put both of these structures on, while still having room for individual parking lots and carpools and drops offs from both Holmgren Estates, the whatever road, I don't know if it even has a name, but the L-shaped road that connects the middle school and the natatorium and then there is one more access to 1,000 North out of the north side. So that's one piece. That's what I would love to see go is this facility, given its location. Also, with the architecture, my hope would be that walking around the indoor track, if it was there, you'd be able to look at and see both the river and I always call them the Wellsvilles. I don't know if they have a name over on this
Not the
side.
Wellsvilles on
The
this.
Deweyvilles on this.
The Deweyvilles?
side.
Okay.
Wellsvilles over there. Yeah.
So you can see the backside of the Wellsvilles. So the other areas they've looked into could be annexed into Tremont City quite easily. So
You have a ballpark cost?
50 million.
50 million. And the
To build it.
school board would participate, is what I heard you say, so it would be
Yeah,
a joint venture.
that's where some flexibility comes in. Depending on which group you look at, Smithfield and the Cache County School District did something for Skyview High School, Camas, and Logan is backing out of their portion, but Skyview is the most recent one and the most expansive in this area. There's so many through Davis County that have done it. There's some over into Heber and Camas and that area. I can't remember what that county's called all of a sudden.
They did a big one in Nephi.
Nephi, the Hive, it did a big one, and that's where some of this started, was looking at that. And so we would go into an agreement of how the cost sharing would be just both for construction costs and for operating costs. When talking with the Parks and Rec manager over the Clearfield Aquatic Center, they say that through fees and through the programming that they have, they cover about 70% of their operational budget just off of that alone. So you'd look and seeing how it's covered elsewhere. If this goes forward, we will try to gather as many of those joint agreements as possible and piece together what we feel is best for both the city and the school district. But if I've only lived here 3 years, and it's a very apparent need that this is long overdue. And that email Zach shared with me this weekend, you can see that this has been a conversation for 20 years. And so I would prefer not to see it go on for 20 more.
Question perhaps to Curtis. So something like this, forgetting the operating costs for the moment, but on the construction for something, whether we contributed 10, 20, $30 million, how would that be funded?
So I will do disclosure that I'm very familiar with both the Logan Cache County agreement and the Logan City and Logan City School District. I gotta clarify, Smithfield and Cache County School District, Logan City and Logan City School Districts. I've seen the good and the bad of both of those. The construction funding becomes the hard part. Depending on how the agreement's structured, the question that always remains is who's ultimately responsible for the building? Who's responsible for ensuring it? Who's responsible for ensuring the operations? How is that going to function? In both cases, both the Logan City and the Smithfield, the agreement started out pretty vague and had to have refinement over time. A couple of the critical issues that came up were some of the very first was what happens when equipment's damaged and who bears the result, who bears that? What happens when equipment needs to be replaced and you start talking about replacing $30, $40, $100,000 worth of equipment, who bears those capital items? The ongoing operational costs, the insurance, whose employees are they? All become into question. All of those are satisfied through operating agreements, and so I like the approach of getting lots of operating agreements, a lot of agreements, period, comparing them, picking out the parts that can protect the city while still protecting the school district as well. Overall funding becomes a question: who's responsible for the revenues? Who's ultimately responsible for the cash collections? Who's responsible for the day-to-day operations? Who do they report to? It's hard to report to both the school board and the city council. So creating all those agreements, just imagine creating a whole new business, if you would. Needs to be created through this agreement. The funding of it, yeah, the city would have to figure out how they were going to fund their share. And I've seen bonds be issued in order to pay for these things. There's a number of different funding sources. Commitment of fees goes through, so it's not, there's two types of bonds. There's a general obligation, which uses property taxes, which is most of the time what the school districts use. There's revenue bonds where you could use like the fees off of the center in order and commit those for the bond repayments. 50 million is a price tag. If the city was to have to bear half the cost of that, no, we do not have the funds to pay for $25 million. So that we'd be looking at other options and what's available to us. Now, that said, the Smithfield Center has survived numerous challenges. They have had battles back and forth between the city and the school district, and they've worked them out. And it's a very well-kept center. Some would argue not so much with the Logan Center. A lot of disrepair, a lot of disagreement between this, you're shaking. So I'd be interested to see a lot of the other ones and how you maintain it in a state of good repair, because there's a lot to maintain. So I like the concept, I like the facts that it brings, but it does bring difficult decisions, and the more that you address those difficult things up front, the less the disputes you get into on the backside.
The other portion too that makes this a little more clean cut than the examples in Cache Valley is that it will not be used for high school sports. That is where Logan has lost hold. Logan City has lost a foothold on its joint agreement, and it's where I think most of the contention would come from with the Smithfield one. The lack of ability to get into the current high school facilities is why this has become a greater need. You can't get into the Bear Center if you're a member of the public until 9:30 at night. You can't get into open swim times at the natatorium unless you go at 5 in the morning. And that's it. So because this structure would go with a non-high school facility, it makes the agreement become a lot more clear cut and black and white, because there should not be any high school sports taking place here unless otherwise scheduled by the school district.
For me, I like the concept. I think the town needs it. My only reservations are dealing with tax impacts on the public.
Everyone I've talked to said they'd take any tax impact to get this here. And the reason that we're trying to do it with the school board is because as much as every citizen in this town goes to Brigham City to swim, every citizen in Brigham City had come up to use this. Same with Willard, North Weber, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if people from Davis and North Salt Lake come up. There's such a lack of facilities with the growth that Utah has seen, not just Box Elder County. All of northern Utah has seen that this facility will be used by more than just Box Elder County. And that's why I want to get it pushed with the school board, because it's not just Tremont that will be using it. The whole county will use it, and therefore I think the whole county can help pay for it.
A couple things I'd recommend, though, just to gather public input, a survey, town hall meetings, other things to get some public weigh-in on this thing so it can collaborate or corroborate what you just told us about the support for it. I think that would be important. And I would hope that the public, vast majority, would support something like this, but I'd like to have them weigh in up front.
Yeah, well, I will keep that in mind. The next step, if the city council doesn't have any changes or any other amenities that they'd like to see besides the hockey rink, is to take this to the school board at their workshop on the 11th.
I know someone that would go in and help fund and do that ice rink, so it may be neutral
Okay.
with all the money that's available, so.
Yeah, I would even look at just doing it possibly as an exterior spot like that they've done with the new plaza over in Logan.
Okay,
That's all.
thanks, Jeff. Council report.
I asked for a lot of money.
No kidding. He said it with a straight face, too. Wes, do you have anything for us?
No, I don't think I think I am good this week.
I'm sorry, I do. Number one, volunteerism. I'm thinking a lot of our, and you brought this up in one of your comments, but I think a lot of our youth and people around town would like to volunteer and help. I think the city could provide some great opportunities for them with some things. I think part of the problem is it feels like you're babysitting, but I think we could. I'm thinking this would be a great thing to turn over to the youth council. You know, maybe put the youth council in charge of setting up some volunteerism and working with them. And anyway, are you over the youth council, Jeff? Who is?
Zach.
You?
Zach,
I've
but
been-
I
I've been
think I
working.
am, or you are,
Well, yeah. I think
Anyway,
one of us.
one of
I'm
us.
just throwing that out there, but I think we're having these church groups and whatnot calling up and asking, what are some things we can do to help the city out? And we don't really have a good list of things for them to do. And so I think let's take advantage of that and let's help people help us.
Wes, do you think you could get them trained on sprinklers?
No.
Okay, that's an idea.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of things lots of things we can get them involved with.
But maybe the youth council can that'd give them something to work on. Next thing, I've mentioned this a couple of times now that we're getting done with the budget. Over the next couple of months, Mayor, I'd like to see, and you and I have talked about this, I'd like to see the city council and the mayor set some high strategic goals that match our pillars. And these are strategic goals, okay? And so we come in and we say, this is what we would like to see the city accomplish this year, and set those, and then let all the department heads work on ways to make those come to fruition. And we could put some measures in place to see if we're accomplishing our goals and whatnot. But I think it would help the departments if we were helped to establish some strategies and then they were working with us to accomplish those strategies. And I think we could do that in some work sessions or whatnot. Next, I'd like to put a plug in for hiring an economic developer that could take, well, and someone brought up the point with the commercial property at 110%. Was that whoever? Okay, that was some good information. But I think we really need to do what we can to get some businesses, bigger businesses here in town. And so I'd like us to look at hiring an economic developer that could really start to help business grow here in our town. And lastly, I'm asking this out of, I don't know if, I don't have an answer to this, but how does our vehicle equipment fund and all the vehicles inside in our city, how do we compare to other cities? Are we heavy on vehicles? Are we low on them? I don't know. And I'm wondering, is that an area that we that we can look at, or I don't have an answer.
Now that the police officers are gone, it's way over. No,
and
I'm joking. Don't put that.
Put them all on bikes.
Quite frankly, the level of vehicles that we have is probably just a little bit lower than some other cities. There are some that do a lot, that do more. The condition of the equipment is probably what I would bring up is our departments are really good at trying to make the vehicles last and taking care of things, having programs in place. And we could benchmark a little bit. It's just that the different cities will have a different way of viewing things. For some example, some like their public works people to all have a city truck so that if there's an incident, whoever can go immediately from their home rather than having to come to the city, get something, and then go. And so there's a level of service that each city has to decide on as to how you want to respond. I wouldn't consider that we're excessive by any means. I would say that we do a really good job of taking care of the equipment once we do have it.
So would it be worth benchmarking, or are you comfortable with where we're at?
I'm super comfortable with where we're at, but if we want to benchmark, we can. I just think it'll be a little bit harder. And realistically, it depends on the level that the city wants to take as to how much, like I said, Public Works taking their vehicles home, police department taking their vehicles home, even fire. Some of the fire departments have vehicles that their people take home. It varies based off of each city, and so it becomes a little bit harder to benchmark, but we definitely could see how we compare.
Well, in this market today,
Public Works do. Just the two supervisors and Paul. Nobody else takes the truck.
And there's other places where basically every single one takes one home. So, like I said, I don't think we're overstaffed on vehicles. I think if anything, we find ourselves a little bit on the light side.
yeah, I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's something that Cynthia actually keeps track of our vehicle list and does a really good job of it. And we know exactly where every single vehicle is.
Okay.
At any time of day, just kidding.
You could call her right now and she could tell you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Might tell you something.
Got two things. Have we put any paperwork out for Paul's replacement yet? Is that in process?
Not leaving.
I think until we got this budget approved, we really couldn't.
Yeah, we need to get that out if it hasn't happened.
See, we lost a guy this week,
Lindsay?
last week
Sorry, what?
too.
Have we got any paperwork out there for a replacement for Paul at this point, or have we been waiting for the budget to get
Waiting for
approved?
Budget, yeah.
We need to work on that. What was that kid's name that we were talking to down at the Brigham City? Anyway,
Don't say it out loud, they'll think we're trying to steal them.
well,
Paul's working on a job description, first of all, because.
we need to get that out. Nothing's happening, and that's like a key position in our town.
Oh, you mean, yeah, I know.
The assistant, Waterworks,
Yeah,
or Public Works.
get somebody in place there.
I know who you're talking about. We won't talk about who it is, but I know who you're talking about.
Okay. And the second thing is there, the Tremont and City or J.D. Harris, whoever you want to call it, put all the trees up on Main Street. If we have somebody come in and want a business owner, a landowner, want to cut one of those trees down, what process do we go through?
Is this a council?
Don't ask me, say give them a
Sort of a
change,
council decision to
or I'll do it.
remove a tree? Or I know Public Works and at times there's a tree that gets damaged or
Right,
something.
when they get damaged and a branch is maybe gonna fall, we go down and just take that branch down. But nobody has the authorization in Public Works to take a tree down.
Have to
It
get-
comes from here.
Comes from who?
Us right here.
Tree board in place.
And you're the biggest and the tree board guy.
I mean, those trees are, that's why this guidance board is being put together. Hopefully we can, make a decision about that. It's
One
getting
week-
50-50, want them up and 50 want them down. And
Right, that's what I was gonna say. I haven't heard nobody that wants them.
well, the business
People have
owners don't
businesses
want them,
don't
and the
want 'em.
public that drives down Main Street that doesn't have to take care of them wants them up.
What feels right?
They are messy.
It's probably, they were the wrong tree for that purpose, but
Yeah, this
there's
guy,
some talk about pruning, we can prune them back, but this person wants to remove.
yeah, because
remove
they
them totally.
can't seize business.
Well, there's
He's got a legitimate request.
several of them that have made that sort of comment, to me anyway. So.
I think it'd be part of that steering committee discussion.
So we just tell him to wait?
It's a little bit of a catch-22 because a lot of the reason why people like to go downtown is because it is tree-lined and shady and beautiful. And you get out and walk and it's an experience. So if you take the trees out, it just becomes a hot concrete desert. But if you got trees, it's more congenial to go and spend some time and money.
So that the idea, hopefully, is that we put up lights with greenery on them, with water going up, so that we've got the greenery, we got ability to participate in the different seasons and that type of stuff. Take the trees down so people can see the stores.
See the businesses.
And walk and not have the sidewalks going like this into the roots.
That'd be pretty cool.
And the trees are ruining the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's not just Main Street though, that's,
Right.
30s.
So at this point, nobody can cut a tree down because it's Tremont and City property, is that correct?
UDOT property.
UDOT property?
Well,
No, not the
sidewalks
trees.
are ours.
Not the trees?
Trees are ours.
So Tremont and City's taking a position that you cannot cut the tree down at this
Can't
point.
not, but
You got the
can't.
mayor thinking.
It's just hard to see that being a legislative decision. It seems it's more administrative,
It probably.
doesn't it, Bill?
I would think so. But there would have to be some sort of a replacement plan, or, you know, the city's paid for those trees to go in at some point, and they don't belong to the city, they are city property, and,
Well,
yeah,
there's
if,
been some of them had, like I said, they've been hit or they've got diseased and.
yeah, there's a life expectancy to them for sure. But I think the comment was that we'll talk about these kinds of things on Thursday, and maybe we could vet it through the Main Street people to make sure that we're reflecting the desire of those people as well. So I don't like, I understand it is an administrative function, especially if it's diseased or, you know, a nuisance in some way. It's causing the sidewalks to heave. And we should look at a tree list maybe of replacement trees that don't cause the sidewalk to heave. I know maples do pretty well for a long time with that kind of thing.
Well, they're, like I said, I've said all along that they weren't the right tree for that location. They were just
what we had.
Not a good tree for that location, but, yeah, so let's,
One other comment, Mayor. We've talked about this for 2 years too. Let's put a line in the sand on trees, one way or the other. And no matter what decision you make, if we're gonna leave them, we're gonna leave them. But if we're gonna get rid of them, we're gonna get rid of them.
Well, hopefully we replace them with a light.
Right, a replacement or,
So people have greenery and the beautification and all the experience is what you're calling it, going down Main Street, and we're not heaving the.
I was in Folsom, California last week, and they had a Main Street similar to ours. It was so fun to walk down. It was almost like walking down an old Western town because they had covers over everything, and they had water misting, and it was just amazing, you know? I mean, who wouldn't want to walk on a place like that, you know?
Can you have them ready for Thursday?
I can show, we can put them up.
Okay.
those are good comments, and I think we need to address, let's just not talk about it.
Yeah, it's a larger question, though. I think I think Wes is right. We ought to have this larger policy conversation going forward, and we ought to get the input from the folks on Thursday in that group, as well as any other business owners and things. Just make sure we're doing it right.
Fire?
I disagree with that rec center. I got 5 grandsons. We go to a lot of ball games, and we're always in Logan, and we're always doing it. And I see everybody from here, there, and we're missing out on all that. Our community's got a lot of different teams that can't find a place to practice or whatever. I think it's a lot of money, but it'll be well used. On the same token, I got called by the big boss, my wife, and wants to know about the pickleball. They said, Zach's not here, but they were gonna paint pickleball over here.
I had Zach answer that to me this week. They got behind with the rainstorms on every one of their court redoings. They think they're gonna be here this week or next.
Oh,
And it's that close, but just the weather put them behind.
well, we don't want her coming and talking next time. So.
No, she's talked to me, so you tell her I'm getting it fixed next week.
Got a problem about pickleball, and I just want to keep it going. That's all I got.
And we looked at options of including in the open space above the basketball courts of adding 6 independent pickleball courts, but it added a significant cost to put basketball and soccer both require about 20 to 25 feet of clear space above them. So to raise the building up enough to have that clear space and then your floor joists and then pickleball is another 15 or so feet. It added quite a bit of expense, but was
Or
the
some
number.
pickleball courts outside. That's the one thing this town wants is pickleball courts.
Well, in that park we're putting in over there, that's a good.
But the nice thing is that these would all be in the rec center. There's a roof, so
Year round.
October through April, May, you could go play indoor, and so that was one. It comes down to, and I didn't get a cost from the architect, but there's a high demand for that, and if we feel that maybe the county fairgrounds isn't gonna be an option in the future, we could look at adding that extra height and those extra courts in above the basketball. So you'd have basketball on the main floor and pickleball upstairs.
I think we ought to look in the short term of some more outdoor pickleball. I mean, maybe the spot on the next,
I think-
park where it's that.
Do you think we could fit one more
Plan?
thing? Do you think we could fit one more thing in the Kent's parking lot, or is that not lovely enough?
But I just,
You think we-
There is-
Something- Yeah, I agree.
that can't be, I mean, they're expensive, but not a ton. Jeff, I'm done.
My turn?
Go for it, yeah.
I've got a few, but the first one's going to be the motion that I want to make concerning the development of a plan by the city for a new program to provide funding support for moderate income housing. I discussed this during the workshop, so for those who weren't here during the workshop, just FYI, what we just did in the budget was appropriate $800,000 for such a program where entities could come in and apply for funding. And we would then have an evaluation system developed through the city for these competing so we could get the biggest bang for the buck. So how could we effectively actually develop moderate income housing in our town? The state has not been able to come up with effective strategies. They've admitted that and did on the 5th of this month when Bragg held their meeting. And the towns I've talked to down at the conference for the league and everything else, I wasn't able to find anybody who could say this is an effective strategy. There are some entities, though, that could help, but they need some financial assistance to add to the resources that they already have. And that was a concept here. And we're talking about using what's known as RDA funds. So these funds are limited in use to just this type of topic. So it's not like they can be used for just anything in the budget process. And there's $2.2 million balance in that fund right now that hasn't been used. It's been there for some years. So this would be an opportunity to create such a program. And given that, Mayor, I will move that the council support directing the city to develop such a plan for a program by December so that conceptually we could approve such plan in January and immediately open it up to applications and get some funding out this fiscal year 25.
Before I second that, should this be run through the RDA
That's what
agenda
I'm kind of wondering.
versus this agenda because it's RDA funds? And so with what you have said, I would say let's wait until we do the RDA portion and then I'll second your motion. Let's move forward.
Understood.
It's just a question, if it's not on the agenda. So I think this is just sort of direction at this point.
You
is-
could with the RDA budget because we're approving
Yeah.
funds for it.
Okay, so in the RDA budget, we can
Make that
this-
part of the motion to
Prove it as
adopt.
part of the motion of the RDA budget.
All right.
Put that in.
Sounds
Make
good.
sure we get that clear.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
One thing Wes requested, if you could see the numbers on one of the projects that happened, it would make me feel better too, to see how it works before we approve
Your
it.
proposal is to start putting something together to bring to us.
That's all this is at this point, is having the staff put together a program plan
Okay.
for how it would be implemented that we would then consider, hopefully in January.
And that can all be part of that motion.
Sounds
you
good.
go ahead and make.
The second item was just going back to the Bragg meeting, again on June 5th, that they had two different breakout sessions, two different time periods, and they had two sessions each breakout period where you could choose from those. Jeff was there, Jenny who was there, and I was there from Tremont at that event. And so I went to the emergency management breakout session where they were related to here that we're moving the direction we're moving. And I also went to the moderate income housing session where there were about 30 people in there, and pretty much everybody's distressed over the whole situation and how can we be effective in accomplishing what the state wants us to accomplish. The other meeting, my wife actually set up on May the 24th with her planning background from back in Virginia, but we met with Paul Larson, who is the Economic Development Coordinator for the city of Brigham City. And we spent about an hour and a half or more with him, and he enlightened us on a wealth of things. So having met with him and the knowledge that he has and what he does in planning and concepts makes me want to support what I just heard Brett say too about we should be moving a similar direction to help our economy here. He's quite frankly repeated a lot of what Lyle Vance, you've said. He also added to that, he had 3 criteria that really motivate businesses. And one of them is people within a certain driving time that they're interested in, household income, and then traffic at that location per day are 3 key variables that they look at before they come into an area. And some just aren't coming. Brigham City's not going to get an Olive Garden. They're more interested in a much larger population and traffic load and everything else, and some other ones that they've tried to get, and just it's not going to happen. So those are the 2 meetings I wanted to mention, and I think I already said it, but just supporting the concept that we look at in the future and economic development coordinator to help us out. Thank you.
Thanks, Council. I just have a couple of comments to make, and then we'll go into our RDA meeting.
Mayor, I'm sorry, did you want to do a closed session before we go to the RDA or after?
Let's do it right after my comments, and we'll go into closed session.
Just wanted to remind
Those
you.
that want to leave can leave. I just wanted to thank, we have a great committee organized and for our steering committee for Main Street, the revitalization of Main Street and the Midland Square. I'm looking forward to working with this committee, and I think it's going to be a great thing, and I think some great things are going to come from it, not withholding the trees. So, I mean, we can look at the whole historic downtown area and how we're going to revitalize it. We do have some money set aside for this, and so I'm kind of looking forward to it, with also the possibility of additional grants. In response to the comments about the economic development person, Lyle Vance and I had an opportunity to listen to a proposition, or the possibility of using this Placer AI, which is a tool that we can use to identify people are coming into an area, how many people attend, say, the county fair. We know almost to the hour how many people are there at the county fair or the Maverick station for that matter. And we can kind of identify how many people are coming and going in the downtown area, what events and all of those kinds of things. So we're really looking forward to that. We've approved that in our budget to go ahead with that source of that technology, and we're looking forward to that. I just want to thank the council and our department heads and all those who had any part in doing the budget this year. It was well done. It went smooth, and it was very helpful. I've heard several council members say that they appreciated that it was, they felt like it was well lit, so to speak. There were no dark spots, anything hidden or anything like that. So I just really appreciate that. Going along with the steering committee, we're going to do a survey of the city, and we're going to look at we got the steering committee kind of organized, and it'll represent several different organizations and everything in the city, but also we want to get input from the general public. So we're organizing and putting together a survey to send out to the general public, sort of get input from them. So I think this will be a well-rounded approach to revitalizing downtown and that kind of thing, and revitalizing the Midland Square. I'm way excited about that. I think that's all I have. I just want to thank each and every one of you for your thoughtfulness and for your research and well thought through questions as we've gone through this process. It's really made it so that I think we got the best situation, for the coming year that we can possibly have. So With that, I would entertain that we go into closed session for a few minutes before we start our RDA meeting. And so with that, that's
Motion, we go into closed
okay,
session.
motion by Wes,
Second.
second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go into closed session, so you're welcome to wait around if you'd like to and attend our